Introducing the first ever Cadillac VT6.
Almost Spanish. Illegal. Get a job. You're gonna need one with Trump people. What? Fuck Donald Trump. Fuck Donald Trump, motherfucker. You hear me? You hear me? Hey. Everybody go get on the
Protesters stormed over here where Donald Trump supporters are. About 7, 8, 9, 10 police officers had to get in the middle of it.
Okay, so we're going to have Jordan actually talking with both the pro and the anti-Trump people shortly. But there you have it. They're getting very close together. Thankfully, no pepper spray at this particular clash. And the people running across the street with the signs were against Trump. And I understand their passion, their fervor, their hatred for Trump. The reason that they want to shove a fuck Trump sign into the face of those who support him. And that doesn't mean I necessarily think you should get in their face for nothing else than your own safety, considering we know how violent the Trump supporters tend to be. But what do you think about this? Do you think that you're there to defend against what you see as an assault on democracy, an assault on the future of our country? You have the Trump supporters yelling out repeatedly, "Go get a job. You're going to need it when Trump gets into office." Do you think that this is a productive use of their time? We want activism.
I think those people do feel like it is, because I think that they view this, like the one guy was saying in the video, that they just come like they're having a parade, like they're going to come flaunt their racism in our face.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're looking at a Trump rally as like, a KKK rally in a sense. That's so the people who live there.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. I think they needed, for their own psyche, to feel like they're standing up against them. Like, we have to go say something. We can't just let this happen, because then we are, all the bad Hitler comparisons with Trump, which I don't buy. But so then you have to stand up and say something. So I think, I think it actually might be a good use of time. I don't encourage people. It looks like violence is going to happen. That's not good.
No.
And but again, I understand how people feel like, this is my hometown. I don't want this shit going on in my hometown. I got to stand up and let people know that this isn't who we are.
Yeah.
Even though this guy is pulling a scab off of us right now. So I would go that way. I like that they were the Trump supporters do that thing, get a job, which I thought rock and roll made that a shitty thing to say. Like, I always felt like
yell at young people.
Yeah, for having to get out, hey, long hair and all that stuff. Like, well, I grew up in a time when that was uncool to say, and now everyone.
And they probably thought it was uncool at one point too.
Yeah, but now it's like they're saying it. By the way, so they're yelling, "Go get a job" to people who are out protesting during the day. You're also during the day at a protest.
The only evidence they have that the anti-Trump people don't have a job is equally applicable to them.
Yeah, that it's during the day and they're not at work.
Yeah.
Well, it's also during the day and you are also not at work. You're here accompanied to do a hate rally.
Yeah, maybe you should get a job. And look, we know back during the discussions about Obamacare, you'd have the people who were like fervently, I hate Obamacare, I hate it. I want to stay with my Medicare, I hate the socialized welfare.
Yeah.
There's a very good chance that a lot of the people in the Trump line don't have jobs. And then they're just happy to hear people around them yelling these hateful things. And
they all can't be lucky enough to have racist employers who let them off to go to a Trump rally.
I couldn't help but notice there was a visual difference between the sides. That's why in the video we're going to show you in just a minute, it doesn't say in the video when he's talking to a Bernie supporter or a Hillary supporter and when he's talking to a Trump supporter.
You have to
can
guess.
usually tell with the context. You can usually tell. And that, look, a politician is not 100% responsible for who likes them, but Trump is because of his rhetoric. He has tried to get the following that he has.
Have we shown the part of the video yet where the woman is yelling, Obama took our rights away? Did we show that part yet?
Oh, well, yeah. Why don't we go to Jordan is going to be talking with people on both sides of that dispute in the video right here.
Why do you guys want to get up in their face?
Just so that they know that it's real. It's not. They're kind of treating it like it's a parade, like they're coming down and they're waving and shit. This isn't one of those types of situations.
Were you part of that surge over there that just stormed the gates?
Yeah, I was.
Why were you part of that?
Because I hate Donald Trump. We have a diverse community. We have Polish, Irish, Italian, Jewish, Afro-American, Mexicano. You know, and we are all in this community together. So anything that's dividing us is not good for this country or our city or anybody. When he talks that way about Hispanic people, those are my brothers and sisters. Yes, they are. Trump, he's gonna win. He's gonna make America great again.
What do you think of the protesters storming you guys just now?
This is something.
They can go get dumped themselves.
Go get dumped themselves?
Yes, we are for Trump all the way.
You think they have a point over there?
No,
No? How come?
because I'm for Trump and he's the only man that can make America realize that we need to stand up for our rights.
What happened to your rights?
They've been taken away by Obama.
They can say what they want. Everybody's done told me, oh, you got Mexicans, the blacks, the drug dealers, rapists. I'm a tow truck driver. I've been here 32 years. My family's busted their ass to live here.
The wall's crazy. I don't know. I just think the wall is kind of crazy. That's the only thing I'm kind of not for. But
So you understand why Mexican people might be protesting?
definitely, yeah.
A lot of them are upset, obviously. He's made comments about Muslims, Mexicans, women. You're not worried about any of that?
No, I'm not worried about that at all.
How come?
Because Trump is correct.
About everything?
Yep, pretty much. This is what this country's about. This is America right here. This is the values of America. Standing up for what you feel for, that's what we're going to do.
If he becomes president, where do you see the country in 4 years?
You see the separation of how it was today? Get ready to get seeing that more often. Way more often.
You think like segregated?
Not segregated, but the people against the people.
I love that we have Jordan out there talking to people, especially the people on the other side, because we know roughly what some of the young Dems think and everything. But on the Republican side, we don't necessarily talk to a lot of those people, see a lot of those people. So it's great that he has the footage of them, and you can see more of Jordan's reporting and interviews he's done. He's talking with pretty much everybody. He's covered the New York voter suppression in depth, talking with all the people involved in the case. You can see that at youtube.com/TYT politics. And yeah, so I love, just like you did, the woman who was yelling out about Obama took away our rights. Like we were talking during the video, yeah, we can list some ways that Obama has infringed on her rights. But she doesn't know about those. It's all the fantasy. He's a Kenyan sorts of infringement on her rights.
Communism. He's just like Hitler because he's trying to take over the healthcare.
Okay, yeah. This is America. This is an easy test. So this is like, okay, let's throw up a politician so ridiculous, so over the top, so un-American, and then this is an easy test for you to pass. Just say, I don't support him, and you don't seem like a kook. But there's a certain percentage of the population, an increasing amount on the right, who can't pass that test. And they don't realize what's supporting this man after all that we know now, what it represents about you and about your ideology. And it's not good. They should be ashamed. Young people, like that young North Face kid who says that he's right about everything, that he doesn't care about the comments about the Muslims and about the Mexicans. Why? Well, perhaps demographically, because he's not going to be targeted by Trump next. That he doesn't know better, that he doesn't care. It's depressing sometimes to realize what people believe in your country.
What's depressing is to see a line full of people like that out in front of your comedy show on a Friday night.
I bet it's got to feel good to see a long line, though.
I've worked Indiana plenty, and I've been to entertain a lot of those motherfuckers. And it ain't easy.
Are you able to tailor your comedy to them?
Yeah, what I do is I just cut off some of the oxygen in my brain. And then any of the jokes I can remember after that, those are the ones.
Yeah, you just take a couple shots, maybe. Dull your intelligence.
No, there's plenty of fine people in Indiana. There really is. Indianapolis.
One of my best friends from college was in Indiana.
Oh, no kidding. Indianapolis, there's at least 5 or 6 guys who are decent.
Yeah, if you get them at a table in the front of a comedy club, like that'll drown out some of the other stuff. We're totally joking.
No, of course not.
Obviously, there's good people because they were on the other side.
My first CD called "It's Not Brain Surgery," by the way. It's Not Brain Surgery, which is not available because I didn't like it.
Didn't like it?
I mean, it's like 15 years ago. It's like I'm a much better comedian now.
I don't want to hear it now.
It wasn't that.
I want to hear the political stuff that you were talking about.
I was just starting to talk. Anyway, I recorded in Indianapolis, right there. So the Bob and Tom Show is from Indianapolis. I'm good friends with Tom, and that's a big radio show there in the. So anyway, it's I don't know why I keep making these jokes, just so I have to backtrack for 15 fucking minutes. All right, here we go.
You know what you should do? One last comment. You should unearth a copy of that, maybe a digital copy.
Yeah.
And throw that up as one of the rewards for Indiegogo.
Oh my God! That's what I'm gonna do. My shittiest comedy CD.
If you only give $1, that's what you get. You get old school shitty comedy. Anyway, okay, a little bit more for you. More ridiculous stuff from the campaign trail. There's apparently no conspiracy theory too silly or too stupid for Donald Trump to not believe in. It's a question that maybe, simply because it's on the cover of the National Enquirer, that it might not actually be true. And the most recent one involves Ted Cruz's father. In the video you're about to see, Rafael Cruz is saying why he thinks you cannot vote for Donald Trump, and then you're going to see how Donald Trump responds to that in this video.
Exhort every member of the body of Christ to vote according to the Word of God and vote for the candidate that stands on the Word of God and on the Constitution of the United States of America.
I'm winning the evangelical vote, and it's disgraceful that his father can go out and do that. And so many people are angry about it. And the evangelicals are angry about it, the way he does that. And, you know, there's a whole thing. And you know, his father was with Lee Harvey Oswald prior to Oswald being, shot. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. What is this, right prior to his being shot? And nobody even brings it up. I mean, they don't even talk about that. That was reported, and nobody talks about it. But I think it's horrible. I think it's absolutely horrible that a man can go and do that, what he's saying there.
Right. There was a picture out there that reportedly shows Rafael Cruz standing with Lee Harvey Oswald.
I mean, what was he doing with Lee Harvey Oswald shortly before the death, before the shooting? It's horrible.
Yes. Crazy guy on Fox and Friends. So that guy did 5% of what a journalist should do. There's a picture out there unverified. There is. Let's bring it up. Give me this first picture.
There it is.
That's the New York Times. And, you see there, Lee Harvey Oswald, Rafael Cruz on the cover of the New York Times. Oh, sorry, that's the National Enquirer. So, they don't even mention, I don't expect Trump is going to mention that it's the National Enquirer, and that's perhaps just a shitty Photoshop.
No one's even talking about it, Johnny. No one's even talking about it.
It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. I mean, why? No one even talks about it.
He just keeps saying it's horrible that Rafael Cruz, can go out and do that. What did Rafael Cruz go out and do? He said, don't vote for Trump. It is horrible that we have that ability to go out and speak.
The fact that he does that, really, even the evangelicals, who I'm winning with, by the way, and I'm winning with the Mexicans and the women Mexicans.
Also the women Mexicans, yes.
I'm winning with them, and I'm winning with Megyn Kelly now. I'm also winning with her.
Well, maybe. She seems to be going towards his side.
She did come over on bended knee. I don't know if people know about that. Did we report that on the show?
Yes.
That's how I know about it, probably.
Yeah, probably, yeah. So, what happened was the National Enquirer, about a little bit less than a month ago, came out with this photo that supposedly shows Ted Cruz's father 53 years ago, next to Lee Harvey Oswald, supposedly months before Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated JFK. I'm going to mention which president it was, just to contrast with Donald Trump, who didn't think it was important to mention who he was actually talking about being assassinated. It's not real. That is a stupid internet conspiracy theory meme. It doesn't actually exist. Even if that was Rafael Cruz, who it's not, and it hasn't been confirmed, thanks Fox and Friends for saying it hasn't been confirmed, but not mentioning that's the National Enquirer, it wouldn't mean anything. But this does say something, not about Rafael Cruz, but about Donald Trump. Donald Trump did not bring that up as a joke Like, he thinks it's funny that Rafael Cruz is involved in this. He literally believed that because he saw an image on the National Enquirer, that's the truth, and he's frustrated with the media for not reporting it. He thinks, oh my God, why isn't this on CBS News?
He's frustrated with the media. You know what? He's on more media than any news journalist in the country. So why don't you just start doing your own reports?
Yeah.
They could just report it. When they let you call into ABC,
Exactly.
and they let you call into CNN, and they let you call, they let no one else call in. Still, no one. Bernie is yet to call in to meet the press. No one has ever been allowed to call in except Donald Trump. Still.
Hey, look, you're frustrated that only he gets to do these calls in. Donald Trump is frustrated that nobody's reporting on that photo. So I'm going to make both of you feel better. I am now going to allow that photo to call in.
Oh, okay.
If it wants to make itself clear, make what was actually going on there, we'll give it that opportunity to do that. So look, Ted Cruz responded to these allegations that his father is implicated in the murder of JFK, saying it is further evidence of how detached from reality Donald Trump is. He will say anything to make news regardless of whether or not it's factual. And then, as if that's not enough, Ted Cruz responded in this video.
Donald Trump went on national television and attacked my father. Donald Trump alleges that my dad was involved in assassinating JFK. This is nuts. And while I'm at it, I guess I should go ahead and admit, yes, my dad killed JFK. He is secretly Elvis, and Jimmy Hoffa is buried in his backyard. You know, Donald's source for this is the National Enquirer. The National Enquirer is tabloid trash, but it's run by his good friend David Pecker, the CEO. And so the National Enquirer has become his hit piece that he uses to smear anybody and everybody. I'm going to do something I haven't done for the entire campaign. For those of y'all who have traveled with me all across the country, I'm going to tell you what I really think of Donald Trump. This man is a pathological liar. He doesn't know the difference between truth and lies. He lies practically every word that comes out of his mouth. The man cannot tell the truth, but he combines it with being a narcissist. This is not a secret. He's proud of being a serial philanderer. I want everyone to think about your teenage kids. The President of the United States talks about how great it is to commit adultery, how proud he is. Describes his battles with venereal disease as his own personal Vietnam. If anyone has seen the movie Back to the Future 2, the screenwriter says that he based the character Biff Tannen on Donald Trump. A caricature of a braggadocious, arrogant buffoon. We are looking, potentially, at the Biff Tannen presidency.
Hang on, I'm calling the FBI. Did you know Jimmy Hoffa is buried in his backyard?
He admitted it on
Hang on, I'm on hold. I have some information about Jimmy Hoffa. This is going to blow your mind.
Also, Elvis. Is that right this whole time?
No one cares about Elvis.
Before we return to the Ted Cruz, so Ted Cruz admits that he says, I'm going to do something I haven't ever done. I'm going to tell you what I really believe about Donald Trump. You should have already done that, you moron. You're in a race against him. Why are you now admitting that you're finally going to be honest about him?
But so what I do like though is what I've always predicted happened would happen if people started telling the truth about when someone in politics is lying. Now they're all just calling each other liar. Hey, it's lying Ted. He's a pathological liar. He's a big liar. Everything he says is a lie. Lie, lie, lie. And now
they can all do it. I mean, that's the only time they're honest is when they're calling each other liars. And so, really fast, Donald Trump responded to the response saying, today's ridiculous outburst, that was not an outburst, only proves what I've been saying for a long time, that Ted Cruz does not have the temperament to be president of the United States. By the way, in that response, we don't have the whole thing for you, that's a written statement. He called him Lion Ted, which I think is hilarious.
Talk about temperament.
Talk about temperament. So that's the temperament. Ted Cruz doesn't have the temperament? Look, I agree with you largely. But he was responding to you saying that what you saw on the cover of the National Enquirer is a journalistic fact that needs to be investigated further. And I also saw that Vampire Boy is on the loose again. And I read that in Weekly World News. And I want to know why CNN hasn't sent Wolf Blitzer to look into Vampire Boy.
I've heard credible reports that there's a helium monster. That's great. So what Donald Trump just literally did there Donald Trump, known for having a horrible temperament. Horrible temperament is instead I'd like to punch him in the face, encourage other people to hit people. It goes on misogynistic rants against journalists who ask questions.
Yeah.
But it's Ted Cruz who couldn't be calmer about saying the great.
Very calm.
Couldn't have a better temperament.
Yeah.
That's literally like if he went, "Dang, Ted Cruz yells too much. He's yelling too much." Like,
well, apparently, actually, he did do that today. He was apparently talking about how Hillary Clinton can't stop yelling, and he was yelling the entire time.
No.
Which I think is ironic. Now, look,
that's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
This is about irony.
The amazing irony. So, look, to some extent, we're talking about this because it's silly, it's ridiculous, and we like the politics of it and everything. But this does speak to something deeper. This isn't a one-time thing. Donald Trump will believe any stupid thing. It's like with the Anchorman. If you write it on a teleprompter, he's going to say it. The Muslim celebrating thing.
I saw news reports.
Exactly. I saw it. I'm sure I saw it. That Obama isn't actually a citizen. That Mexicans are rapists. There was some other big conspiracy theory. We reported on at the time. This is not a good thing for the president. That if he sees something on social media, he instantly thinks that it's true. We expect the president to be a critical thinker, someone who can integrate the advice of as many experts as possible and exercise carefully crafted judgment that comes as a result of a lifetime of experience in dealing with tough situations. He can't make it through a Reddit thread without thinking 10 new crazy things about the world are true. You know, he gets his scientific news from Kylie Jenner's Instagram, and now he believes he knows everything he needs to know about chemtrails. This is the president, and I say this in the hope that maybe some of his followers will start to say, okay, I like his policies, but you're right, we can't have a madman as president. But unfortunately, while we know that racist feelings correlate very strongly with supporting Donald Trump, I have a feeling that believing crazy conspiracy theories might be an even stronger correlation. If you like Alex Jones, you like all that bullshit, I guarantee that a magnificently high percentage of those people already support Trump, and so they're lost cause.
So, I mean, this story reminds me of that Abraham Lincoln quote, which was, he said, "Don't believe everything you read on Facebook."
I've seen that. Mm-hmm. I thought it was Yoda that said that.
I think it was Lincoln.
Yoda probably got it from Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, Lincoln had the earliest version of Facebook.
John, can I tell you why this works, first of all?
What?
Everyone knows what Trump does because of who he's running against. So Ted Cruz, and this is the second angry I'm going to let you know because I'm very off the cuff, and this is a very natural way of speaking. Ted Cruz goes, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to speak." For the first time. Honestly. Nobody wants to listen to you talk like that. So everyone goes, "I can't believe Donald Trump is saying such stupid shit." Then they say, "I wonder what Ted Cruz is going to say." And before he gets to the first two sentences, you go, "I don't give a shit what Ted Cruz says. Just make him stop talking to me like
that." What was I thinking?
There's nothing natural about what he's saying. There was parts in there where he brought up his wife and she's standing next to him, and he gazed at her and he said, "I may be biased, but if he thinks she's not good looking, then he's the one." Shut the fuck up. Don't stop. None of that was natural. Off the cuff, I thought of Back to the Future too. You know Biff Tannen, because no one's heard about that before. He's so fucking fake. He doesn't even know how fake he is. How are you that fake? And one of his lines was that Donald Trump is so arrogant that he's the most arrogant politician of all time. We're looking at him. He doesn't understand that he's that guy.
Well, they're both doing it back into each other. It's so funny. Trump's going, he doesn't have the temperament. And then Ted says he's a narcissist.
And they both say that they're each other. They're liars.
They're both liars. Like they are pretty. They're almost equally despicable. Except Ted knows how to dog whistle things still.
Yeah. A little bit
actually
more.
Introduced legislation to ban all Muslims from America, or lots of them.
From a bunch.
From Muslim country.
Yeah, exactly. Now, JR just reminded me of something that I meant to say during the first story about those protests, and what I like about the video, in addition to everything else that I said, is that Trump naturally creates that you want to hate him on the other side. Like, there are Democrats in every city where he has these rallies doing these protests. Nobody's doing that for Ted Cruz. No, I mean Ted Cruz is a hateful guy, but he's also a boring guy, and that I think disarms some of your natural opposition to him. Because you don't care about Ted Cruz. Just naturally, you see him and you think, This is a person who does not deserve my attention. And it's the flip side of the fact that he gets things like a reality show, but Donald Trump does demand attention just for, I think, the wrong reasons. Okay.
I agree with everything John just said.
Thank you.
Just want to let everyone know I'm still here.
So, all right, okay. You are still here. Okay, let's talk about Hillary Clinton then. Hillary Clinton is being forced to walk back some of the comments that she made about the coal industry during a town hall earlier in the Democratic primary. Now, in case you don't remember that, to jog your memory, here is Hillary Clinton at a CNN town hall a little bit more than a month ago.
I'm the only candidate which has a policy about how to bring economic opportunity using clean, renewable energy as the key into coal country. Because we're going to put a lot of coal miners and coal companies out of business. Right, Tim? And we're going to make it clear that we don't want to forget those people. Those people labored in those mines for generations, losing their health, often losing their lives to turn on our lights and power our factories. Now we've got to move away from coal and all the other fossil fuels. But I don't want to move away from the people who did the best they could to produce the energy that we relied on.
Okay, so that was what she said a couple of months ago, perhaps not expecting that we would get to this point in the primary process, but we're here now, and she's now being forced to campaign in places where a lot of people involved in the coal industry actually work. So when she arrived in Williamson, West Virginia yesterday, she was greeted by protesters chanting "Go home" during an event at a wellness center. West Virginia resident Bo Copley asked Clinton to explain her March comment. And she said, "What I said was taken totally out of context from what I meant, because I've been talking about helping coal country for a very long time. What I am saying is that the way things are going now, we will continue to lose jobs. That's what I meant to say."
That's not what she said, though.
Yeah.
So that's not what she said. That's what she thought she meant to say. And the reason she didn't say it is because Hillary Clinton is a horrible politician and an even worse candidate.
Mm-hmm.
She is a bad politician. People don't like her. She has the highest negatives of any Democratic candidate in the history. People have gotten a belly full of her. She's always been a flip-flopper. In 2008, all the other Democrats were saying the same shit about her. Barack Obama said that about her. He ran to her left then. People wanted a lefty back then. They still want one now. She is a horribly flawed candidate. This proves it. When she said it, go back and look at the tape. I pointed that out. Could you think of a worse way to say that you're going to be anti-coal? Could you think of a worse way? We're going to put a lot of those guys out of job, right, Tim? Like, she almost had glee in her eye about it, and then she realized, because you're a shitty politician and a worse candidate.
See, I agree with you to a point. I do think that her backtracking now is a result of the bad way that she messaged originally. And now she's trying to backtrack, not because she fundamentally disagrees with herself from back then, but because she wants their votes now. West Virginia is coming up not long from now. It's very transparent. No, I think, look, if you look at just literally the actual transcript of what she said, she did talk a lot about wanting to help out the people transition from the coal industry to blah, blah, blah. All of that is true. Where I disagree with her is not her changing it now. I'm mad that she's changing it now, because while I agree that you shouldn't have glee in your eyes necessarily, I do think that we should want to shut down coal plants. I mean, our goal should be no coal plants in America or anywhere else in the world, because it's an incredibly dirty form of fuel, so long as we don't simply then cast off all of those people to their fates. Like, if you don't look at the glee in her eyes and you just look at the words on the statement from back in the town hall, I think that's the balance we should have. We transition to clean energy, we get rid of the coal plants, but we make sure that people have job training to make sure that they don't end up on the streets. She's already backtracking on that. That's the thing. Yeah, that was the right general position, even if it was the wrong messaging. She's already abandoning it.
Right, that's my point, yeah. So what's that? Even when she's on the right side of an issue, she's such a shit politician that she says it in the most horrible way possible. Yeah. That's what I was trying to say. And now, instead of saying it in the right way, she's backtracking.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, all she has to do is tweak it, but reiterate. Like, yeah. I mean, look, when Bernie Sanders talks about breaking up the banks, that probably would result in some people being fired. Okay? That we're ready for that. It needs to happen. those people are going to be fine because unlike coal miners, they're making fabulous amounts of money. So I'm a little bit less worried about it. But no, I don't want her to flee from that idea. Like, you already have the wrong position on fracking. We need you to have the right position at least on coal. That's one of the easiest forms of power to be opposed to long term because of how dirty it is for the people who work in the industry and for the entire planet as well. And so I guess we can have some hope that she'll end up on the right position because she certainly doesn't mind flopping back and forth from time to time. But we need progress on this. Obama's energy policy has been largely okay. He's opened up areas for drilling that I wish that he didn't. But in terms of cap standards and things like that, he's generally been okay on power for the most part. And we need her to be better than Obama was. And it already seems like she's not going to have the political bravery, the political leadership that we need when it comes to addressing climate change. And coal regulation is going to be one of the biggest components of that.
Yes, I'm with you. That was a very generous framing of Obama's energy policy.
Yeah, look, I can mention some of the ways that it's bad, but I mean, in terms of raising the standards for cars, there was something having to do with appliance energy standards. Like, those are some of the big things that do have long-term impacts. But, as with most other industries, he is not independent of the energy industry. I believe that at various points he did want the pipeline to be finished. Now, thankfully, it wasn't.
And Arctic drilling.
And Arctic drilling as well. But we don't have those things. Exactly. We ended up at the right point, not because of his leadership, but probably in spite of what was actually in his heart. And so that's why we can't keep rolling the dice every Democratic president. Anyway, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we've got a bill that's likely to be passed in Connecticut. Very good news for those who have experienced domestic abuse. Good news coming from a state with a Democratic governor. We don't often cover those, but we will when we come back from this break. Continue to tweet us at #TYT Live, both about the stories that we've been covering already and your expectations for the Indiana primary, which we'll be covering after the second hour. We'll see you in just a few.
Borrowed money from the Chinese and they give it to us because they're nice people. We're a bunch of capitalists borrowing money from a bunch of communists so we can bring democracy to a bunch of Muslims who don't even fucking want it. I saw a comedian on the TV, he said, if you're 30, 35, 40 and you still work at a fast food restaurant, you're a loser. I was like, oh, thank God. Somebody finally stood up to the minimum wage worker and took them down a few pegs. That's the beauty of Facebook, right? You find out that you really don't like your friends. I think a lot of the gay guys themselves voted against gay marriage. I'd love to marry you. I can't wait. Let me go vote. No. And then afterwards you act upset about it. Oh, I wanted to marry you, but they made it illegal. I'm just doing what's right.
Yes, go back to that.
Mexico's going to pay for the wall.
So good.
Very, very big price.
Welcome back to the first hour of the Young Turks, everybody. Jimmy Millions and myself, we have a couple more stories for you in this first hour. But first, to the Twitters. I have to say, I always look first to see if there's a tweet from El Duende Chingon. just to see if I can get anyone to laugh. Unfortunately, he's not tweeting, or his Twitter game is not up to the standard of the person who calls the tweets for. Sorry.
I'm tweeting.
Let's see.
I'm tweeting at Timmy _Door.
I'm gonna have to read some of his then. The Hody says, it isn't Trump who's terrifying to me, it's his supporters who now have carte blanche to incite hatred in their communities. I largely agree. Those people have always existed, but now they feel like, oh shit, it's a movement. I'm a leader. I can be aggressive about this. I don't want that unleashed all over America. And we've seen it at these rallies. Pablo Danger, which is a pretty cool name, says, does Jordan get any combat training so he can interview people at Trump rallies? I was actually thinking about that. He goes to a lot of places where there's violence, frequently. He should be careful.
You know, him and Bill O'Reilly also they're in war zones.
How many wars do you think Jordan has covered with a pen? Probably 4. Let's see.
I think he covers it with a DSLR camera.
DSLR. He's covered 4 wars with a cannon. Let's see. Eric Johnson says, thanks Donald Trump, you got me to agree with Ted Cruz for a second. Good fucking job, ass.
Way to go,
That's nice. I like that. And Sarah is 100% correct when she says that's a spectacular point, John. She's also correct when she says there are no protests against Ted Cruz because he's boring. It doesn't make him any less insane. That's true, but what I like about it is not about the Trump side of that equation. It's about the opposition side. I like that Trump inspires liberals to come out to fight against what he represents. Like, there will always be people who will go against Trump. Trump and his supporters, because as the earlier person said, they don't like to see that racism. And in fact, some of the people that Jordan talked to expressed exactly that. They think this is a parade and we're going to show them that it's not. This is not cause for celebration. You are on the side of hate. And there's always going to be libs who are going to stand up against that and show them that that is not the popular position they have been led to believe it is.
I think it is important for those people to go out there.
I agree. Right? I've been swayed.
All right.
Yeah.
I did my job.
Boom.
Look at us high-fiving.
Okay. Let's talk about some good news. Maybe. Controversial news. I think it's good. We'll see if you agree. Connecticut is about to pass a law that would require those accused of domestic violence to hand in their guns and ammunition while the case proceeds. Accused domestic abusers would have to surrender firearms within 24 hours under legislation that won final approval in the Senate on Monday afternoon. This is the Connecticut Senate, and now heads to the governor. The goal is to protect women from the increased lethality at a critical point in a relationship when they are trying to leave their abusers. About 14 domestic homicides occur annually in Connecticut, half of which are caused by guns. And furthermore, the bill would require court hearings within 7 days, and if judges decide against extending the orders, weapons would be returned within 5 days of that. Currently, court hearings are held 14 days later. So they're actually speeding up the process under this new bill while the weapons are being held. So this is Connecticut, a largely Libby sort of state, but it has in the past had a significant Republican presence, at least in the governorship. Currently, there's a Democratic governor. He has implied that he is going to sign this bill, which has just passed. And there were both Democrats and Republicans who voted for it in the Senate, which is something we might not expect. So, do you think that this policy makes sense?
So let me get this straight.
Mm-hmm.
You have beat your wife.
Yes.
And
well, you're being accused of domestic abuse. So the trial hasn't yet proceeded. It hasn't been confirmed. You've been charged. You've been accused. So at that point, they decide.
I just don't think... so they're erring on the side of safety?
Erring on the side of the safety of the person in the relationship.
Over the...
generally will be a woman, but not necessarily. This is gender-neutral language.
Oh, so over the constitutional rights to own a gun?
That's a neutral framing of it, yes.
Okay, well, it's a tough call if you're, a maniac who really likes guns. But it's not a tough call for me. I think it'd be, at the very least, you should take away a guy's gun who's been accused or charged. And then if he gets off, then you give him his gun back.
Yeah.
But in between, he doesn't get to have a gun. I think that's okay. He can still have a knife.
That's true. That's true. That's a nice macabre take on it. That is true.
He can still have a bat. He can have a bat.
He will still be dangerous, as they have been in the past.
He can have
nunchucks, which require some talent to use, admittedly. Right. I know from my childhood, they're difficult. You'll hurt yourself.
No, sorry. They should be called nunchucks. because I'll tell you what,
you will hit yourself right in
very
one.
easy to hit yourself with a crotch or Rooney.
Now, while we know that if you employ nunchucks, you're much more likely to hurt yourself, we do know historically if an abuser has a gun, they are significantly more likely to use it to kill the person they've been abusing. So absent the gun, there is apparently less of a chance of the person killing them.
You're kidding.
That's
You're
what
saying
studies have shown.
statistics prove that if you don't have a really easy, glamorized way to kill someone,
Yes.
that you probably won't do it?
Exactly.
Oh,
I was shocked to find out too, but we need to make it clear because there's some people watching.
So I've been wrong.
You've been wrong because you've been saying guns make it much harder to kill this whole time. You were dead wrong.
Whenever I'm at a party and someone yells fight, I go, get the guns. Right? I say,
let's make this exciting.
Let's make it safer.
It's safer, yeah.
Everyone get guns.
Exactly.
That's what.
But here's the thing. So we're joking. A lot of the Republicans in the Connecticut Senate, I believe 13 voted against it, are saying, of course, this is going against your Second Amendment rights. Look, the Second Amendment never says that there is no regulation whatsoever on guns. And look, under a worst case scenario, your gun is going to be taken for less than 2 weeks. If it turns out that your conspiracy theory is true and there was no domestic abuse and women are just going to start accusing men willy-nilly, then the worst that happens is you lose your gun for 2 weeks. And if you desperately need to have your gun every single day, I think you should not have that gun for a little while.
I agree.
I don't think it should be that important. You can want the gun, you can have the gun. Look, my father owned guns. If they'd been taken away for a week, he wouldn't have lost his shit. He would have just not gone target shooting for a week or two.
My father owned a gun, and we all almost shot each other with it.
Really?
Well, yeah, it was a big mistake. My dad was a cop, so he had to own a gun.
Yeah,
and he would keep it in a locked drawer.
Yeah.
And, of course, my brother learned how to pick the lock. You know, it's not that. It's not like Fort Knox. It's just a dresser.
The dresser, yeah.
So he picked the lock. My dad, I told you this story before. No, my parents went out one day, and you could hear him, and they left. We were in the basement, and they were going out for the day. Anyway, next thing I know, my brother's got the gun, and he's pointing it at me, laughing. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, don't F around. Don't F around. Next thing you know, we hear the door open upstairs. My dad.
Oh, yes.
I come home because he'd forgotten his gun.
Yes. Thank God he remembered he'd forgotten.
He beat the shit out of my brother so bad.
Oh, that's dangerous. He should have used the gun.
I said, why not just shoot him? Yeah,
that's really
my brother's head was bleeding, the whole deal. He was in bad shape.
Now, thankfully, my father did not have guns until I was older. I'm not going to say that I always acted responsibly with the gun, but nobody got shot, and mostly it was used for shooting paper targets.
Oh, really?
For the most part.
I shot a bird once with a BB gun, and I still feel bad about it. I never wanted to shoot anything after that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
never did that. Even thinking about it,
it felt creepy. It was like, what
did
I do that for?
With bows. That seemed difficult enough, I think.
Yeah, it's still stupid.
I still didn't want to do it.
It's still the thrill of killing, which is weird.
It is. I mean, look, he ate it and everything, like all that.
Weird.
He would actually skin deer and use he was very old school in that way. I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But really fast, to return to this, there's the fear from the right of the slippery slope, that if you could confiscate a gun, which, by the way, there are already situations involving domestic abuse under which your guns can be confiscated. This is not establishing some wild new precedent. It's simply moving up the date that your gun can be confiscated. You don't need to actually go to jail or receive some sort of massive punishment to trigger your gun being taken away. And judges could always make that determination on their own. That's common across the country. But this is under the time when she's accusing him of the domestic abuse. This is the time when she's leaving him. That's the dangerous time. She needs to be protected during that time. So on the right, they're going to be worried about the slippery slope, that this can now be expanded so that your gun can be taken away under other circumstances. I would say, how about we embrace the slippery slope of increasing worry about the protection of women in incredibly dangerous situations, and also men in a not insubstantial number of instances as well. Let's begin to worry more about stopping people from being murdered as a country, go down that slippery slope for a couple of years.
You know, maybe, I'm not even going to do the jokes. Go ahead.
I'm curious now.
No, maybe, hey, you're going to take away a guy's gun because he's got a lippy wife? Maybe it's her fault. Maybe it's her fault. Maybe that's what they would.
That's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, Jimmy. Is that from your first CD?
That's from my first CD.
Your first CD, which you will only see by going to Jimmy Dore's Indiegogo.
That's right.
Just Google Indiegogo Jimmy Dore. Guess what the first thing that's going to pop up will be? It's Indiegogo, and then you support it and get a bunch of cool swag. Yeah. Do we have time for the last story? We're going to cut it at this point. We do have to end the first hour a little bit early and the second hour a little bit early to get us ready for the launch of our primary coverage. We're going to have, right at the beginning, we're going to have Jordan Sheraton, who's in Indiana right now. We want to find out what's happening on the ground, what the likelihood is that Cruz can actually hold on off Donald Trump. Can Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton and break her northeastern winning streak that she got in the last election day? So we're going to be ending just a little bit early. Continue tweeting us, and I did want to thank two of our members before we go to this break between the hours. Member number 1278, Hasni Mirza, and member number 1279, Tim Blake. Thank you for being members of TYT. If you're curious about membership and all the benefits that you get from it, you can search on the website, tytnetwork.com/join, I believe, and find out about that. So we're going to cut at this point. When we come back, Anna Kasparian is going to be here. Jimmy Dore is going to be sticking around, and they're going to have some awesome second-hour stories for you. See you in just a few.
Thanks for being members. We'll do more post-game shows. Steve-O on my right and Dave Kohler. I'm a producer here, and Steve and Dave are childhood friends of Jenks, who somehow... Why am I happy? Yesterday, we added 1,000 members in one day alone. It's not a big deal, I'm kidding. I heard David Beckham stunt double once.
They believe what they believe, and they're not swayed by
facts. I think a lot of people agree with Bernie on principle, and maybe this is the start of something.
Why is it okay to take advantage of girls?
Because we're going to get lit.
Ben and his doodles.
Women lie all the time.
I'm so happy I don't work for a company that asks me to come up with yearly goals at the beginning of every year and has me fill out these fucking annoying templates about it. Anyway,
Or maybe people should stop lying.
No, you're crazy. Provide a different perspective on Jenk. We often challenge him internally. Grace, your list.
I am.
Has there been any thought to TYT? En español. Okay, that's not right. Bienvenidos a los miembros nuevos. Espero que les haya gustado todo este post-game show. Anna, what has Jenk done in the past that drove you crazy? Why am I reading?
let me be diplomatic here. He just sent an email to me, Jimmy, and John saying that he had a lot of fun doing primary coverage with us this week, and we make a great team. Everyone is so overworked right now and stretched thin because it's election year. Like, it's to be expected. All right, we're doing all this extra work, and keeping it real, sometimes you ask yourself, like, are we getting anything out of this? Like, are we getting a thank you at least? Like, something? And so when you sent that email, I was like...
Mayweather will knock out Pacquiao. Floyd beats his wife.
If you watch The Young Turks, there's some chance that you like the idea of change, especially progressive change. That's what the show is all about. Well, there's an organization in Washington that's also about that. It's appropriately named Progressive Change Campaign Committee, PCCC. Well, these guys don't just support any old Democrats. They support ones that are bold and progressive. And so they want to build up the Elizabeth Warren wing of the party. And they've already done a lot of campaigns on the ground you might not even be aware of. But this is why I like this group, because they're the guys responsible for starting the idea of a debt-free college. All of a sudden, Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton are both talking about that in the campaign. They're the ones who decided that on Social Security, we shouldn't play defense anymore, we should go on the offense. Republicans keep talking about cutting back Social Security, we should start talking about expanding Social Security. And lo and behold, in this Democratic race, we're talking about expanding Social Security. They talk about campaign finance reform, getting money out of politics. You can begin to see why I like this group. And did you know they already have 1 million members? Isn't that amazing? They're doing this work on the ground that a lot of you might not be aware of. But they want you guys to join them, which I think makes sense to me, and that's part of why we're running this campaign for them. You can go to
pccc.me/TYT show. That's pccc.me/TYT show. And that's your first step towards bringing up about progressive change. In fact, can you be the most progressive man in the world? Knowing me, I'd probably like to take that title for myself. But out-progressive me, I don't know how you're going to do that, but I think step one is joining these guys because they fight for true, bold progressives. So, not all politicians are created equal, my friends. Support bold progressives.
Is it you're wrong? Is it? And now you are wrong. No, that's what I want to say. Except you're wrong. Then someone else. He was right. Actually,
Welcome back to TYT. That intro song was very Prodigy-esque, except like calm down.
Okay. Music to Prodigy.
I know
Prodigy's a fucking Prodigy's a British icon. You know, I'm leaving before we even started.
All right.
Guys, I've been lying. I was Scottish my entire life. And sometimes when I'm around this guy, it just comes out.
All right, guys. So Jake is not here yet. He will be back, I believe, on Friday. But we have Hassan Piker and Francis Maxwell joining us in the second hour. We're going to have a condensed second hour because of the fact that we will be doing election coverage later tonight. And so we'll have a short break after the second hour so we can, get everything set up, possibly eat something before coverage, and then we'll proceed with the Indiana primaries. All right, so let's get started with some of the stories. You guys ready?
I'm so ready.
All right. Rapper 50 Cent was at the airport in Cincinnati, and while he was there, he came across a custodial worker who appeared to act strange, according to 50 Cent. Now, he proceeded to film this custodial worker at the airport and accuse him of taking drugs. Now, little did he know that the 19-year-old in the video, the same person that he was pestering, was Andrew Farrell, who has autism, a hearing impairment, and also severe social anxiety. Now, this video, honestly, for me, was very difficult to watch. So if anyone is sensitive to this issue, I want to give you warning. But with that said, take a look and we'll discuss. We don't have the video. Okay. Well, then this story is worthless without the video. So I'm going to go ahead and put that aside and move on to something else. Do we have any videos? Let's take a break, guys. We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back. We are in the process of getting that video for you, and we're going to move on to the other news, but I promise we'll get back to that story because I think it's an important one. All right. A video is going viral on the internet featuring a woman confronting a man who's paying at the register at a local Walmart using food stamps. Now, both parties are with their children, and once you watch this exchange, you'll kind of understand why people are up in arms about it. Take a look.
They take it out of my check. Bullshit, they don't.
Okay. They contact your local senator and congressman and issue a complaint. Vote Republican. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, trust me, I am not a bleeding heart fucking Republican. That ain't ever gonna happen.
I don't care about you, lady. Just shut the fuck up.
I don't have to. It's a free country, remember?
I remember.
But if people are the least I can do is talk. Oh, it is for people like you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hillary and Bernie supporters.
You don't know me.
Don't know me. That's what you just said, quote Republican.
I'm sorry, you have to deal with it.
Drive up here.
I told you.
That's what you vote for. They give it to you so that you vote that way. I'm not stupid. I vote pretty damn smart.
You keep saying that over and over. No one's supposed to be proud of you.
You know what? I put myself in it.
You are.
Yeah, you know why?
Posting and voting how great you are.
That's what I'm doing.
Do you see anybody getting a phone? No, they don't. Why do you mind your own fucking business?
You're tired of paying for it.
Okay, alright. Well, until you vote Republican and get them out of there, deal with it, bitch. Sorry.
Yeah. That's not the worst shit. No. Not a radio.
I don't make the rules, lady.
You don't have to.
No, I don't, you're right.
Just take advantage of them like everybody else.
Well, why wouldn't I? Yeah, why wouldn't I?
So it appears that the woman was upset that he was paying for the food at Walmart using food stamps. Little does she know that she is purchasing products from a company where a lot of their employees have to rely on governmental assistance because Walmart doesn't pay its employees enough, does not allow them to unionize. In fact, a 2014 report found that Walmart costs U.S. taxpayers a whopping $6.2 billion per year in food stamps, Medicaid, subsidized housing, and other forms of public assistance for its employees. These are not people who are, of course, stereotyped as lazy individuals who just want to sit back and receive government benefits. These are people who are working, who want to be able to work and provide for their families, but are unable to do so because this massive, profitable, lucrative corporation refuses to pay them a decent living wage. A 2013 report found that nearly $1 out of every $5 in food stamp money is actually spent at Walmart. Okay, so this story frustrates me for so many different reasons. And before we get into even more details and talk about all the different, issues involved in this video, I just want to state that there's a small possibility that this could have been staged. We don't know all the details about the video, so I want to give you guys that caveat. But nonetheless, this is an issue that pops up throughout the country. There have been other instances of people being harassed at grocery stores when they're using, their SNAP benefits to pay for groceries for their kids and for their family. And so it goes on and on. The stereotypes are perpetuated, and it drives me insane.
And there was like a fake viral story, I think a couple months back, where a comedian went out to, again, surprise, Walmart, and staged this fake interaction that he had with a family that had purchased things for food stamp, but then also bought lottery tickets, I think, with cash. And then he stole their steak, and he ran out. It's like, my steak. It's like, no, you stole that. Like, that's not your steak.
But that was a fake video.
But that was fake, is what I'm saying. Like, and I understand why you give that caveat. I get it. But it's just one of the things. First of all, I don't think this is fake because no one is that good at acting. Like, that was some Idris Elba shit right there. Like, I believe that lady was furious at this person, and I believe that person did everything in their power not to crack the lady across the head. Yeah. Which is, wow, that takes a tremendous amount of self-control, because even when I was watching it, and I'm not on food stamps, I was so lit up, and his child was there. It was just it made me so angry, and it's because Republicans have this mindset against poor people, where it's just like, and even poor people, that lady's still shopping at Walmart, she might be poor herself, they hate poor people. Like, I don't understand why it's engraved in our mentality. Because
they've bought into the mass media propaganda that leads to this Hunger Games mentality that we have in the middle class and the working class, where we're focused on fighting the poor. We punch down instead of focusing on the system that's actually keeping us down. I've made this point on the show so many times, I feel like you guys are just nauseous from hearing me say it over and over again, but it's true. It's true. I'm going to give you the breakdown of where your taxes go. For anyone who's watching that video and who thinks, yeah, man, I'm tired of paying for all these lazy Americans. No, a tiny amount of your taxes go toward helping the poor. But a huge amount of money is saved by these super lucrative, successful corporations because they get subsidized, because they get these tax breaks, because of corporate tax loopholes. That's what's destroying this country right now when it comes to our economics. But no, you'd rather focus on these poor kids who don't have enough money to be fed. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to get into that in a second, so go ahead, Frank.
I mean, for me, it's so representative, right, of how divided and the rhetoric that we consistently see, specifically through this election, right? Because what is certain candidates giving as a reason for their candidacy is the ability to scapegoat. It's just scapegoating. That's it. It's giving people who have an excuse, who maybe have come across one or two examples that don't lead the best example when it comes to someone who is poor or someone who they'll deem as lazy, and it gives them the motive to go and think that everyone in that category is the exact same. Oh, you're on food stamps? You must be lazy. You're not working. Yeah. You're not working 40 to 60 hours, what the gentleman said himself. And I'm going to set aside the fact that it went on whilst there was Cosmo sitting there and she continued to repeat, oh, I'm smart. Well, you're not very fucking smart if you keep saying this in front of a kid who's sitting there and causing that sort of scene. But trust me, this is going to happen more often than you realise, because we have candidates, one in particular, who's giving a voice to these people that want to scapegoat. Yes. That's why, is to continue to push forward this message that if your circumstance is you're facing adversity, it's someone else's fault. Yeah. And it's maybe that person you're looking at right there. Without even knowing the situation, without even knowing what that person's going through, they just assume that they're falling into this stereotype. And you hit the nail on the head. Like, they'll make the assumption and they'll make the snap judgment. Go and look into the research. See the amount of money that's spent on military spending. Because you're continuing to give
$609 billion was spent on military spending
I don't like to always give Hassan the credit because we go back and forth, but watch his Facebook video on the jets and the trillions of dollars that are fed into our mind where we say, you know what, we're under attack here. We need to protect ourselves. So continue. We will just make these
a jet that barely flies, mind you. That's the controversial F-35 program you're mentioning. But it's a really good example of where our spending priorities are, and it's a really good example of how people don't really want to talk about that sort of stuff, and instead focus on instead they want to focus on why the fucking poor person is poor because he's lazy and that's his fault. And it just infuriates me, especially because I personally know a lot of Republican friends of mine that take advantage of affordable care, for example, that are on Obamacare, as they like to call it, yet are still so critical of all of our welfare policies, yet, they might be teachers, or they might take advantage of the police force or the fire department.
That's a part of it that drives me crazy, right?
Yeah.
The people who criticize Bernie Sanders because they're like, oh my God, he's a democratic socialist. They don't even call him a democratic socialist. They just call him a communist or a socialist, whatever, and they, of course, defame him in any way that they can while they're collecting their Social Security benefits, while they're on Medicaid, while they take advantage of all of these beautiful roads and bridges that we have, our infrastructure that's paid by our tax money, right? These are social programs. If you don't like the social programs, then why don't you take a stand, right? If anyone in your family is collecting Social Security after they've retired, why don't you wag your finger at them? You probably won't, because you probably enjoy those benefits, right? You realize why we have that in place, so we don't have elderly people on the streets, which, by the way, we have an increasing number of elderly people on the streets because of what we've been doing with our economy. So let's talk about our taxes a little bit, because I'm so tired of people complaining about how their earnings are going toward the poor. Look at all these lazy people that all my hard-earned money is going toward. First of all, don't flatter yourself, okay? You're not saving the world by paying for the poor, okay? A tiny fraction of your taxes actually goes to these programs. So, for instance, if you want to break it down in terms of Social Security, for instance, 24% of the budget, the federal budget, went toward Social Security last year. This is 2015, okay? Social Security, pretty important program. Again, we don't want elderly people on the streets. A lot of people don't have a privatized form of retirement.
Paid for, by the way.
Which they paid for, exactly. Another thing to keep in mind, okay, people talk about privatizing Social Security, privatizing retirement, okay? I know exactly what that's like, okay? I contribute the maximum amount to my Chase IRA account every year. You want to know how much it grows? Dick. Okay, to know that that's what I would have to rely on if we did away with Social Security scares the hell out of me. All right, so that's one part of it. When it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, marketplace subsidies, we spend another 25% on that. When it comes to defense, that's where another massive chunk of our tax money goes toward. Okay, so another 16% of the budget, $602 billion, paid for defense and security-related international activities. Less than 10% of your federal income taxes goes toward programs that helps the needy. Okay, you want to break it down with dollar amounts? Average taxpayer spent $12,978 last year on taxes. That's the average taxpayer. Some people pay more, some people pay less. You guys know that. About $3,723 went to Medicaid and children's health insurance programs. That's a huge percentage of what you paid, right? $3,294 went toward the military. A whopping $461 went toward public education. Okay, so please stop whining about how all your money is going to failed public schools, or how all your money is going toward helping these lazy individuals. First of all, you're stereotyping them. You don't know their situation. A huge chunk of these welfare recipients are working, and they're just not making a living wage because we don't offer them a living wage. But then you also have to keep in mind that there is this huge problem in this country where we're putting our resources toward war instead of helping our own people, okay? We're giving subsidies and tax breaks to the wealthy and basically focusing on regressive taxes that are aimed at the middle class and the working class. That's what this country is dealing with right now. So instead of being an idiot who just consumes mainstream media news and buys into these ridiculous stereotypes, do your own research. Try to figure out where your money's going. Follow that paper trail. You care about that income, right? So do the fucking research and stop complaining about poor people. The real problem is the system that we're coping with right now.
Damn.
Anyways.
Wow, okay.
Sorry. I'm fucking tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people punching down, right? Acting as if like, oh my God, you're saving this country and it's all about you and your income and your earnings. I'm mad about taxes too. Believe me, I see that chunk of money taken out every single, time I get paid, and then I realize, oh, the majority of this is going toward, private contractors and the military. And I believe in national security. We absolutely need it, right? But at the same time, the way that we're funding our defense is ridiculous. Private contractors charge us insane amounts of money, and that's the reason why we have
projects.
Exactly.
I mean, not always.
But it's okay. Let's attack the guy who's trying to, feed his kid at the local Walmart. Anyway, all right. Let's get back to the 50-cent story. You guys ready?
That's it.
All right.
Shaking a little bit from your.
Yeah, the walls are trembling, but I like it.
I got a little heated.
It's needed. It's needed.
All right. Now I can't find the story, but it's okay because I remember it. All right. 50 Cent was at the Cincinnati airport when he approached a custodial worker that he believed was high on drugs. Little did 50 Cent know that this 19-year-old was actually autistic, had a hearing impairment, and also suffered from severe social anxiety. Now, the video that you're about to see was originally posted on social media, and of course, it led to a lot of heated reactions. Take a look.
This new generation is crazy. They're crazy. What's your name? Look at him. Look at this. What kind of shit you think he took before he got to work today? He high as a motherfucker right here in the airport. Pupils dilated, everything looking like that. The new generation is fucking crazy.
What's incredible is this guy who became tremendously famous off rapping about gang behavior, drugs, hoes and bitches.
Yeah, sell drugs.
He's going after this kid who appears to be drunk or high at work. But here's the reality, okay? First of all, of course, the fact that he's autistic makes this story even worse. But let's say, for the sake of the conversation, he wasn't autistic. So you're going to go after someone, you're not going to ask any questions, you're going to put him on camera, and you're going to accuse him of doing drugs, which could lead to him losing his job, right? Who are you to make that judgment call, and who are you to put someone on blast like that? Then you find out that the kid's autistic, and it made me sick to my stomach. It literally made me cry the first time I watched it. Because you think about the severe social anxiety that he has. You think about the torment that he probably went through his entire life because of the fact that he's autistic. You think about what his family goes through watching a video like that where he's being tormented. I mean, it's hideous in so many ways.
Being bullied by a fucking celebrity walking around and putting a camera in your face. You wouldn't even like that you wouldn't like that in your normal life. When if someone came up to you and was like, I'm gonna film the shit out of you and you have nothing to say, and then to top it off, he has hundreds of thousands of followers. Look, most importantly, this kid, I've worked with kids with autism. I started a program with my fraternity brothers in New Jersey, and it was a mentorship program, and I got to experience working with these kids hands-on. It's the amount of difficulty that this 19-year-old had to overcome to be able to work a normal job where he doesn't have to constantly be supervised by other people, even if it's a custodial position, is tremendous. Okay? And then you're going to go over there and put him on blast like that without realizing, without giving any thought to this person's life.
It's the way he obviously formatted the video, right? What is crazy? Like calling him crazy first of all, right? So what is crazy about a 9-to-5 job? Like what is crazy about someone who is overcoming adversity to put himself out there? Because you mentioned it right there, you hit the nail on the head. There is many people in similar situations that wouldn't want to go and wouldn't want to experience and would not want to work and try and better themselves and try and help themselves become more adaptive to society if they're facing struggles. And then you have this imbecile who's going at him with a camera and all of this news and media around it about how much of a douchebag 50 Cent is, which is thoroughly deserved, there should be just as much highlighting how this kid handled himself so honorably, right? Never even said anything. Because you never know, he responds, he could put himself in jeopardy for his work, for retaliating, nothing. Just walks, he just gets
This week at Ashley Home Store, when you get hurt at work, you need more than workers' comp. As low as $148, you need the law firm's just $148. That's now $148, and so is now
and needed more, and that's just, it's laughable, because he's judging someone else who's trying to better themselves, a 19-year-old, whether it's he's went through all these experiences and his amazing life that he's rapped about, and he's somehow back to somewhat square one when he started with nothing, obtained millions, and then squandered it all for stupid decisions.
50 Cent's social media is not necessary. I mean, really does a good job with showcasing how stupid he is at times. When he was going through bankruptcy, he fucking posted a photo of himself talking like as if it's a fake phone with a stack of $100 bills, which is laughable because he had to go back and say, that was a prop, that wasn't real money, I'm really sorry, which is probably the least gangster fucking thing you can do, 50 Cent.
Well, I mean, look, after this whole debacle with the video that he recently posted, of course, people called him out for attacking someone that was autistic, and so he took the video down. So far, I haven't read of any apology, so he hasn't issued an apology yet, which he absolutely should do, but he has a history of attacking people with disabilities, and it's disgusting. So first of all, a comment from Andrew Farrell's father. Andrew Farrell was the custodial worker that was attacked in that video. His father says it's just sickening, very hard to watch, to put this out there saying my son is on drugs or whatever. That is part of his social anxiety. He's not wanting to talk, he's not wanting to communicate, and he's walking on and he's doing his job. He's very upset. The more I thought about it, the more upset I got, the madder I got. This could hurt him for the future, okay? But in the past, as I've mentioned, 50 Cent has had to delete tweets or delete posts on social media where he attacks people that have disabilities. He said to one person who had criticized him, "Just saw your picture, fool, you look autistic." Very classy. And another post said, "I don't want no special ed kids on my timeline, follow somebody else."
Nice. Classy gentleman, 50 Cent. Well, by the way, we should report that there are numerous reports coming out currently claiming that the family might sue 50 Cent for $1 million. I've heard a couple different reports, one saying $1 million, another saying a simple apology would suffice, and possibly a portion donated into some sort of autism charity, which I think would be just in this point.
It's defamation of character. That's what I'm saying. Overall, it's just... It's a snap judgment, which we talk about quite a lot on the show and a lot in news and media. And someone who is in the spotlight has a responsibility. He doesn't care about his responsibility because you said he's done it before. And it's something you see a lot with celebrities as well. They act just on instinct and they don't realize the repercussions of what would happen. And I just hope that this kid grows from this and takes the strength that many people would have shown towards him through stating that he handled himself very well and very professionally, and he's a good advocate for the position that he's in, trying to better himself. So I hope that he takes the positives from it, and 50 Cent learns another harsh lesson, because I don't know how many more he's going to have to learn.
I can't emphasize enough how important it is to think about all the different possibilities before approaching someone that you think looks suspicious or is acting suspicious, right? And also have some empathy. It's a custodial worker. Even if he did not have any type of disability whatsoever, you don't know what his life is, you don't know what he's going through. As a public figure, you have a responsibility to be careful in situations like this and to not degrade or defame anyone in any way. You have a large following, and unfortunately, he did the worst possible thing he could do with someone who works at an airport like that. So devastating.
Checks on a plane, basically.
Yeah. All right.
Throwback.
Let's go to Haas's passionate story.
Oh my God.
All right. The contestants on The Biggest Loser, of course, lose dozens, if not hundreds of pounds in some cases. But recently, there was a 6-year study that followed the contestants of the season 8
NBC reality TV show, The Biggest Loser.
All right. So there was this big study that lasted 6 years where the researchers followed the contestants from season 8 to see what their habits were, whether or not they were going to gain the weight back, what happened to their lives? How did it impact them? Now, the researchers went into this not really knowing what the outcome would be, right? And what they found was actually pretty shocking and extremely devastating for those of you who are trying to lose weight or maintain your weight loss. What they found was that most of that season's 16 contestants have regained much, if not all the weight they lost so arduously. Some even are heavier now. And it has to do with two main things, okay? It has to do with resting metabolism, which determines how many calories a person burns when at rest. When the show began, the contestants, though hugely overweight, had normal metabolisms for their size, meaning they were burning a normal number of calories for people of their weight. When it ended, their metabolisms had slowed radically, and their bodies were not burning enough calories to maintain their thinner sizes. So I didn't know this. I was under the assumption that if you exercise regularly, you eat properly, your metabolism will actually speed up. But when you lose a considerable amount of weight, it's actually the opposite. You actually have a slower metabolism, and it becomes quite a challenge to maintain your weight or to continue losing weight. Now, a lot of these contestants would exercise, I'm not even kidding you, 7 hours a day.
Yeah.
And they severely restricted their calories, and that's how they were able to lose the weight that they lost. Once you return to normal life, it's impossible to keep up with that lifestyle, and your body fights aggressively against that weight loss in the form of your metabolism and also hormones, which we'll get to in just a minute.
I live through this every day. Like, that's not a joke. I come from a family of obese people. I used to be a very, very fat person. I was pretty much obese when I was younger, and I lost a tremendous amount of weight in a very short period of time through pure dedication and hard work. I just basically stopped eating. And unfortunately, anyone who's ever dieted knows there's such a concept called yo-yo dieting, where you go up and down dramatically with your weight. And this is the reason, because your resting metabolic rate, it's comfortable at the current position it's in. If you're eating 2,800 calories a day and you're fine with that, your body's maintaining that weight, as soon as you drop a tremendous amount of weight, your resting metabolic rate follows through with it. Now, there are certain things that you can do in order to keep it going as best as possible. One of the most important factors that you need to take into consideration is gaining muscle, because your body, when trying to feed the muscle, will increase your resting metabolic rate. So that's literally one of the only things you can do. If you lose a dramatic amount of weight, you're going to have to put on muscle. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to eat you're never going to be able to eat a normal amount of food and maintain your current weight.
Yeah, and the one thing that Anna mentioned at the start, which was very similar, and it is something that's highlighted throughout this, is not a lot of people would go into the detail or understand the biological side of it.
Yes.
And that's why it's almost a breath of fresh air to see this article when people are getting 5 minutes of fame by fat shaming people and screaming how lazy they are.
Yes.
When it actually there's a biological reason behind it. Not every single reason is the exact same. Trust me, I understand there is examples of some people may be lazy and not want to make a change in healthcare, and that's their choice. But fat shaming people, when you don't really understand that there is biological circumstances that go into this, there is proven statistics, and it's needed. Studies like this are needed because those contestants, which I think the show is absurd, and I never really enjoyed it anyway.
Yeah.
It gamifies losing weight.
It's
like
it's
you
so
are tested
dangerous.
on exactly that's the word there. It's dangerous. The expectations are dangerous. They're not sustainable. These people are working out. You mentioned it 7 to 8 hours a day. And then what happens when they go back to everyday life and they have to deal with bills and family and everything else? It's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. And also, I love that you brought up the issue of fat shaming, because you're absolutely right. I think, as with people who are in governmental assistance, being stereotyped as lazy, it's the same thing for people who are overweight. They're immediately cast off as lazy. Oh, they're probably not eating healthy. They're probably not exercising enough. But there are so many genetic factors or biological factors, physiological factors that play a role in whether or not we will lose that weight, whether or not we will maintain that weight loss. And it not only has to do with our metabolism, it also has to do with hormones. Now, when it comes to metabolism, though, keep in mind that when these contestants started gaining that weight back, their metabolic rate didn't really recover 100%. As the years went by and the numbers on the scale climbed, the contestants' metabolisms did not recover. They became even slower, and the pounds kept piling on. It was as if their bodies were intensifying their effort to pull the contestants back to their original weight. Now, the biggest loser from that season was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Cahill, and apparently he was one of the worst off. He regained more than 100 pounds. His metabolism slowed so much that just to maintain his current weight of 295 pounds, he now has to eat 800 calories a day, less than a typical man his size. Anything more turns to fat.
Yeah. So look, one of the important things that we haven't really touched on yet is education about this. Okay, there are a bunch of great documentaries out there that you guys can go and watch. I think Fed Up is one of them. It talks about carb addiction and the FDA regulation that is not there to protect and ensure that the citizens of America are healthy. There's a lot of incorrect assumptions like carbs are bad for you, or fats are good for you, or fats are bad for you. These are all fads. In the end of the day, one of the things you guys all need to understand is whatever diet you can stick to for the rest of your life, you should probably try doing that.
And
even
it's
if
not
you're
really
losing weight in a slower rate.
And it's not really a diet. It's more a lifestyle.
Everything
You
is
guys
a diet.
have all heard that. But look, the point of this, Haas, is you can change your lifestyle. You can work out and eat right. But even doing that, for some people, is not enough, right? So again, there's the metabolic rate, but let me finally get to the hormones that I've been talking about. So there's a hormone called leptin, right? And it's the hormone that basically stops you from feeling hungry, right? And so when these contestants lost tremendous amounts of weight, their leptin levels decreased. In some cases, they were completely gone, right? So they did not have proper levels of this hormone, and they were constantly hungry, and they couldn't help it. So you have this hormone that's constantly making you hungry. You have a slow metabolic rate, and it's a recipe for disaster, and you start packing on the pounds again. Look, I don't know what the solution is, right? This is a pretty devastating story, and I'm sure a lot of you are like, okay, well then what does this mean, that we're doomed? No, you should still try to eat healthy and exercise. You should do your best to stay at a healthy weight. But I think the point of this is to make a very complex issue even more complex and make it evident to everyone. So you understand that those who are overweight are not there because they want to be. You know, they're not necessarily there because they're lazy or made bad decisions. Some people have a genetic makeup that's different than yours. Yeah. And so try to be empathetic to their situation. Try to understand where they're coming from. Instead of being judgmental or calling them fat or making them seem like they're just lazy losers, understand that there are other complexities behind the scenes.
Yeah, and you has talked about it as well, the education side of it, and it starts from youth, right? And I have had the privilege of being on both sides of the world, and despite the fact I don't think the Scottish and the United Kingdom's health system is as great as it could be, the amount of food that we are, I would say, encouraged to eat in basically in school comparison to here is drastically different. The United States and how they promote food for young students in school and all the way throughout is pretty diabolical. And how kids are often assumed that the faster option, because you might need to go and do your homework, or you might need to go and do this and that. It's sickening at times. I've been on a couple of school campuses. What are you guys, middle school, or I don't still can't keep up to do with all the different levels of it. It's shocking. The obstacles that they have to go through to maybe get a healthier option is ridiculous. And that's where it starts, because genetics play a part in it, biology plays a part in it, but education is a huge part of it. The faster you can get into a routine and start to understand that these will have consequences on your own body, the better you're going to be in the long run.
Look, there's also the issue of your socioeconomic status. So if you're poor and you don't have access to grocery stores that have fresh produce, a lot of people live in areas that don't have those types of grocery stores. And
produce is pound for pound more expensive than a bag of chips. So in the end of the day, it's much cheaper for you to feed your children with the shitty food filled with fillers. And one of the things I can't stress this enough, it blows my fucking mind that in America, pizza is considered a vegetable.
Well, it's tomato sauce.
Because it has tomato sauce in it. It's considered a vegetable, and they feed that to your children. How are you not pissed off about this? There's deals that Pepsi and Coca-Cola have with schools so they can give sodas to your children at an early on age. It's ridiculous that the government continues to protect and cut deals with these massive corporations that basically poison our children from an early on age.
That's why we got to get money out of politics, because the reason why they have those deals is because of the political clout that these corporations have. It's devastating. All right, we got to move on to some other stuff, so let's do that. A recent survey of the average American found that we're really good at self-segregating. In fact, this study done by Robert Jones of the Public Religion Research Institute found that the average white American has one black friend, one Latino friend, an Asian friend, one mixed race friend, and then one friend of another race. I don't even know what that means. But they have 91 white friends. Okay, so that shows that if you're white, you're more likely to hang out with a group of white people. The same is true of black individuals, but it's not as stark. So let's take a look at that. So the average black American has 83 black friends, but they have 8 white friends, 2 Latino friends, usually 0 Asian friends, which is interesting, 3 mixed race friends, and 1 friend of another race, okay? And then 4 friends of an unknown race. Now, how did they do this study, or this survey, I should say? They found a nationally representative sample. They surveyed these individuals and asked them questions about their group of friends. Now, they asked all sorts of questions about demographics, like gender, age, to hide the fact that they were trying to gauge the racial group that they hang out with. But this is how they found out that, hey, we do self-segregate. So this is not, to criticize white people or criticize black people, or criticize anyone. It's just an example of how we are more likely to spend time with and hang out with people that are like us. And that does have some negative ramifications. For instance, you're more likely to understand the struggles of a certain group of people if you engage with them and you talk with them and you understand what they're going through. You're less likely to understand their struggles if you segregate yourself with people that are like-minded, with people that are of the same race as you.
I don't agree with the term that it's self-segregation, because I think it is kind of surprising that we are surprised by this, considering that segregation in terms of certain areas in the United States is as blatant as literally black and white. You can go through certain areas. I lived in LA for about 6 years, and it's so obvious to me. I don't know if I've just got a special outlook on it because I came from a different world, but it's so obvious. You drive down Jefferson Boulevard, one side of it, Studio City, where you might get a mix of races. The other side is a community that is considered a lower economic community, and the race is specifically 1 or 2 different races. And it's so obvious because areas are created to hub certain races, right? So this takes me back to an article I read a couple of weeks ago in the New York Times. New York City, considered the one of the most diverse cities in the world, they're actually looking to try and assist when it comes to these new 40,000 housing estates to try and adjust so that racial segregation in housing isn't as prominent. In New York, a city where you walk through and you're like, wow, this is really diverse. But you have to take the look at that there is still segregation when it comes to housing estates. There is still segregation when it comes to certain races because it's the way the system was set up in this country.
Well, okay, so let me clarify something. I think self-segregation is absolutely something that's happening in this country, right? With that said, yeah, I mean, of course you're going to deal with neighborhoods where people are from a lower socioeconomic status. That impacts minorities more than anything. And so you have, certain neighborhoods that have more minorities, certain neighborhoods that have wealthy white individuals. You see that throughout the country, especially in big cities like New York or LA. At the same time, that's one factor, so you're absolutely right about that. But self-segregation does happen. I mean, it's definitely evident on school campuses, college campuses, where people hang out with others that look and act and behave just like them.
But
it's just a fact of the matter. It happened in my high school.
It's too much to ask a certain individual to, force themselves out of their comfort zone to be friends with other people. I do it because it's in my nature. I don't care. So, which is one of the things I found out, that I have way more different ethnicities than the average white American. But there is something that should be said about this study, okay? Because one thing that people wanted to, sensationalize out of the study was that, oh my God, white Americans have way less black friends than black Americans have white friends. Now, that's a factor that's not that surprising when you take into consideration that 223 million white Americans exist, and only 38 million black Americans exist in America. So when you look at the numbers, and that's obviously including Hispanic whites, which is kind of like Anna Kasparian, but that was a joke. But
I liked it.
but what I'm trying to say is, surprisingly, the numbers add up. I mean, the numbers match up.
Yeah, and the researchers mentioned that. They said that, the population differences do play a role in, the disparity that you see here. There's obviously a smaller, black population in the United States, so that does play a role.
That's why there's the disparity between 8 to 1 is what I was trying to say.
Yes, so that exists. But I do think that it's pretty obvious that we do tend to hang out with and choose to hang out with people that are like us. And I don't think that we're doing that consciously. I don't think that most people think to themselves, I don't want to hang out with that black person. I think that a lot of it happens subconsciously. Look, an example of it, and this is anecdotal, I understand that, but I think that it's kind of indicative of what a lot of people experience. When I was in high school, I remember all the Armenian kids hung out with the Armenian kids. I hung out with the Latino kids.
That's why I said it. White Hispanic Anna Kasparian.
But, and then, the black kids hung out with the black kids. It was just very evident to me, right? And it made me wonder what kind of impact that does have on society. Because, look, when we have all these stories pop up about Black Lives Matter or about, black people or minorities in general getting harassed by cops with stop and frisk policies, you'll have, white people say things like, well, they shouldn't be acting suspiciously, or they shouldn't be out at this time of the night. And there's like this disconnect. There's this lack of understanding of what other communities are dealing with and coping with. And so I think engaging with one another can help solve that a little bit. I know that certainly happened with the gay community, right? So over the last 5 years,
white.
Over the last 5 years, the gay community has made massive strides when it comes to equality in the country. There's still a long way to go, but they have made massive strides. And I realized one of the reasons why that's happening is because gay people were coming out, and they were doing so confidently, right? And they were no longer willing to stand back in the shadows and hide who they really were. And then all of a sudden, all of these bigoted family members were like, oh, well, my daughter's gay, or my son is gay, my cousin's gay, my aunt's gay,
like,
whatever.
My son is black.
Well, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that in a second. But it's true. And then all of a sudden, that movement started personalizing the LGBT community, and people started engaging with people that they knew that were actually part of that community.
So what happens if you grow up in that community then? And you grow up in a community where you're raised to engage with people who aren't just like you. That's what I'm saying with... I'm not saying that that's the only factor, but that's the point I wanted to reiterate is I didn't come to America and I didn't come a Republican or a Democrat, but I became a democratic person because I had the ability and I wanted to understand other people's different cultures, because I wasn't raised in an area that was specific to a certain race or specific to a certain amount of beliefs. That's the point I'm trying to emphasize, is you mentioned that you're not doing it consciously, but that's because you've been raised in a way that you're in your comfort zone. And people want to go along with their comfort zone. It's a sociological term. It's called reification. It's when you just subconsciously do something and you don't think it's offensive, and it's not most of the time, but it's just what you've been taught to do. And it happens when you're raised. That's my main point, is when you start to engage different communities into a certain area, when you're raised, because I strongly believe that the community you grow up in will sculpt your beliefs and sculpt how you engage with different races. That if you do that at an earlier age, and you start to do that more so throughout the United States, then it will start to happen naturally. You'll start to find that more people become more integrated with each other. I might just be a mad scientist, but I'm just coming in.
No, you're 100% right. I grew up in Turkey. There are no black people in Turkey. None. There's absolutely no, maybe 3 or 4. Okay? I came out here and I learned racism through the things I saw, through other people's feedback, through television shows, through realizing, oh wait, I'm watching a TV show and there's only one black person in it. It's not the interaction's not the same. And we as a society need to be more understanding of that, and we are kind of now, just like we did with the LGBT community. It's not just about taking black culture and using it for our own advantages. It's not about just taking, their music or anything like that, or certain aspects of black culture, and just,
promoting it through white faces. That's why people like Beyonce are incredibly important.
Yes.
That's why I promote and love when important black figures come out and they embrace their identity, their culture. It's not separatist. It's not polarizing. It's actually saying, hey, this is who we are. We need you to love us for what we are.
Look, I don't know if this is the best solution, but this is what I see happening personally, right? First of all, the best way to combat this type of, social trend is education, right? Doing studies like this, understanding social trends, and finding solutions to let people know about what's going on and what we can do to solve it. Okay, so that's step number one. But what I also see happening is, look, newer generations are not as close-minded, right? And so you see a lot more people getting involved in biracial relationships. And that's happening at a rapid pace in America right now. And I think that alone is going to do good things for race relations in the country.
Yeah, so you mentioned the point there, I think that is the most valid one, is we're becoming so much more progressive and open to those in the LGBT community. Why? Because we're starting to relate. Oh, I've actually got a cousin. So what happens if you are born into that, and you are born into, oh, I've got a black person who lives on my street.
Right.
Oh, I've got a Hispanic who lives around the corner from me. I play football with him, or soccer, if we manage to get that caught on you. So what happens when you start to mold younger minds into believing that it's okay to mix? It's just so clear to me. That's the only reason that I think.
I absolutely, and I think a lot of young people already feel that it's okay to mix. I certainly feel it's okay.
Yeah, it'll become more prominent. It'll become more prominent.
And I love it. All right, guys, we're out of time, unfortunately. We got to prep for primary coverage. Thank you to Hassan Piker and Francis Maxwell for helping me host the show today. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you in just a few minutes.
Many other executives assume very important positions in Democratic and Republican administrations. You all know what the revolving door means? What the revolving door means is you work on Wall Street, you go into the government, you represent Wall Street in the government, and then you go back to Wall Street. That's what the revolving door is about. Thirdly, what Goldman Sachs has done over the years, like other Wall Street financial institutions, they have made huge, and I mean huge, campaign contributions to politicians of all stripes. And here is the last thing that we need to know about what's happening at Goldman Sachs. And this really, really gets the American people angry. Today in Kentucky or in Vermont, some kid gets picked up with marijuana, and that kid will get a criminal record that will last his entire life. All right, hang on, we're going to deal with that one in a minute. But here is my point. If you're a kid with marijuana, you got a criminal record, last your entire life, which is no joke. You should go out, you try to get a job with a criminal record, may not be so easy. But if you are an executive on Wall Street, if you are the 1%, if you are part of the most powerful institution in America, you can commit illegal acts which wreck the lives of millions of people. And you know what happens to you? you get an increase in your compensation package. Well, you know what we're going to do together? We are going to bring justice back to the criminal justice system. And justice means that even if you're wealthy and powerful, and if you break the law, you have got to pay the price. Let me talk about just a few other differences between Secretary Clinton and myself. All of you know that one of the very important things that a President of the United States does is deal with foreign policy and military policy. The most important debate that we have had as a country in the modern history of the United States has been over the war in Iraq. I listened in 2002 very closely to what President Bush I think we don't know. Well, let's hold off, not for sure. All right, but back to 2002. And here is the issue. All of us know that there are no more important issues than the issues of war and peace. And I know that as a congressman and a senator. Because when you vote for a war, you know that some of the young people in your state who you send off at deployments, and you say, God bless you, best of luck, you know that some of those young men and women will not come home. And I listened very carefully to what Bush and Cheney and all the rest were saying about Iraq. And not only did I vote against that war, I helped lead the opposition to that war. And it gives me no pleasure. I wish I could tell you otherwise. It gives me no pleasure to tell you that if you go to my website, listen to what I said on the floor of the House in 2002. And much of what I feared about the destabilization that would take place in the Middle East turned out to be true. On the other hand, Secretary Clinton, the senator from New York State, she heard the same evidence that I heard. She voted for the war in Iraq. And while we are on issues of war and peace, let me say this. We all know that not only must ISIS be defeated, ISIS must be crushed. But we also know that this country and our brave men and women in the military should not be involved in perpetual warfare in the Middle East. Now, I have heard many of my colleagues, my Republican colleagues, especially on the floor of the Senate, on the floor of the House, they're really tough. They want to go to war here. They want to go to war there. They want to go there. But let me tell you something. It is not their kids who are going to go to war. It is the children of working families in this country. So we have got to understand that war and military force sometimes, of course, has got to be used. But it is the last recourse, not the first recourse. There's another area where Secretary Clinton and I disagree. She wants to raise the minimum wage, and that's good. She wants to raise it to $12 an hour. Not good enough. I am proud to have stood on the picket lines with fast food workers from McDonald's and Burger King. And they understand that in this country we need a $15 an hour minimum wage. And I will stand with those workers in that fight. This campaign is asking the American people to think outside of the box and outside of status quo thinking. This campaign is asking people why it is that there is only one major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people. Now, I have been criticized for saying this, so let me say it again. And this is a big, big deal. In my view, health care is a right of all people, not a privilege. And thinking outside of the box, ask us to think why it is that if you are wealthy in this country, you can get great health care. But if you're working class or poor, you may not have any health insurance at all, or you're going to have very high deductibles and co-payments. We lose thousands of people every year who do not have the money to go to the doctor when they should. In my view, when we understand that 29 million Americans have no health insurance, even more are
And we're back. Okay, try to flip that over as fast as we could. We got your primary coverage for Indiana, obviously. It's already been called for Donald Trump. That happened almost instantly. His lead has been falling, but he's still up by 20 points, almost 20 points. Sanders started off down by something like 5 points, 10 points, steadily crept up, and he's now up by 3.2% with 34% of precincts reporting, welcome Bernie! There he just came, and he could continue to expand that lead. I've been following some of the people who are looking at a county-by-county level, and they're saying some of the areas where they think Hillary is expected to do well, what they would call like minority-heavy areas, things like that, haven't yet come in, they're saying. But even those voices most recently have been saying, we might have underestimated Bernie's support on. They said especially that they haven't seen this big of a disparity between the early voting and the day of the election voting, typically, which is a good sign. It means that Bernie Sanders supporters are not dropping off out of anticipation that he's going to leave the race. In fact, they might be coming on even stronger the day of the election. So, of course, we're going to be following that as it comes in.
And tip of the hat to the Clinton campaign. It doesn't look like they tried to cheat this time.
Or perhaps not enough, or perhaps they're waiting to spring that at the last minute. We're going to have to wait and find out. We do, though, have Jordan Sheraton, who I believe is in Indiana right now. No? Okay, so we're going to have him a little bit later on. Cenk is also going to be Skyping in. I wonder, is he going to be excited about Bernie Sanders? I don't know.
Maybe a little bit. He's going to be Skyping in about an hour. Is Bernie still speaking?
Yeah.
So we want to go ahead and toss to the rest of Bernie's speech, and then we'll be back with some commentary.
To our brothers and sisters in the African American community. And they are crying out for reforms of a broken criminal justice system. Now, I was a mayor for 8 years, and I worked very closely with my local police department and police departments all over this country. Vast majority of police officers are honest, hardworking, and they're doing a very, very difficult job. They deserve our support. But like any other public official, when a police officer breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable. We need major reforms. of local police departments. We've got to start demilitarizing local police departments. We have to make local police departments reflect the diversity of the communities they serve. We need, as a nation, to understand that lethal force, the killing of somebody, is the last response, not the first response. We need to end, and I've got legislation in to do this, private corporate ownership of prisons and detention centers. We need to rethink the so-called war on drugs. Over the last 30 years, millions of people have received criminal records because of possession of marijuana. Today, under the Federal Controlled Substance Act, marijuana is listed as a Schedule I drug next to heroin. I have introduced legislation and will implement as president getting marijuana out of the Federal Controlled Substance Act. States, it is the decision of the people of a state to decide whether they want to legalize marijuana or not, and more states are doing that, but it should not be a federal crime. And when we talk about drugs in my state and all over this country, we are facing an enormous crisis with opiate addiction and with heroin addiction. Every day, people are dying from overdosing on those drugs. Now, in my view, if we are going to deal effectively with that crisis, what we have got to understand is substance abuse and addiction should be treated as a health issue, not a criminal issue. And that means that we need in this country a revolution in mental health treatment. Right now, in virtually every part of this country, people who are suffering mental health crises, people who are suffering with addictions, people who are suicidal, people who may be homicidal, they cannot get the treatment they need when they need it. And that has got to change. You know, we spend trillions of dollars on the war in Iraq. We have spent billions rebuilding infrastructure in Iraq and Afghanistan. And yet, if you look at the inner cities of this country, what you see is outrageous levels of unemployment and poverty, people who cannot find affordable housing, and you're seeing schools that are crumbling. If we can rebuild the infrastructure of Afghanistan, we damn well can rebuild the inner cities in America. This campaign is listening to our brothers and sisters in the Latino community. There are 11 million undocumented people in this country, and I have talked to many of them. All right, there's one right here. When you are undocumented,
And when you have no legal protection, that means that when you go to work, you can be exploited by your employer because you have no legal rights to protect yourself. And that is happening all over this country, and I've talked to undocumented people who are scared to death that their families will be separated, somebody will be deported tomorrow. In my view, we need to move aggressively toward comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. And if Congress does not do its job in passing immigration reform, I will use the executive powers of the presidency to do all that I can. This campaign is listening to a group of people whose pain is almost never heard, and that is the Native American community. All of you know that from before this country became a country, when the settlers first came here, the Native American people were lied to, they were cheated, and treaties that they had signed were broken. And all of you also know that we owe a debt of gratitude to the Native American people that we can never repay. They have taught us so much, and one of the important lessons that they have taught us, which we must learn, is that as human beings, we are part of nature. That as human beings, we must exist with nature, not destroy nature. And that takes us to an issue not only of enormous importance for our country, but of enormous importance for the entire planet. And that is, as a member of the U.S. Senate Committee on the Environment, I have talked to scientists all over this country and all over the world. The debate is over. Climate change is real. Climate change is caused by human activity. Climate change is already causing devastating problems in this country and throughout the world. We have a moral responsibility as custodians of this planet to make certain that we leave this planet in a way that is healthy and habitable for our children and our grandchildren. And that means that we must stand up to the fossil fuel industry and tell them that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. Now, I understand that as we transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency, to sustainable energies like wind, solar, geothermal, and other technologies, there will be economic dislocation. And there will be innocent people who want nothing more than to provide for their families, who will be hurt in that transition. And that is why in the legislation that I have offered in the Senate, the most comprehensive climate change legislation ever offered in the Senate, that we provide $41 billion to help workers who might be dislocated. that all over this country there is a fear that Donald Trump will be elected President of the United States. I am here to tell you that won't happen. It won't happen. It won't happen because in every national poll that I have seen for a long time, we beat Trump by double-digit numbers. But it is not only the polls. Polls go up and polls go down. It is also the fact that the American people will not elect a candidate who insults every group that you can think of virtually every day. We are not going to elect a president who insults Mexicans and Latinos, who insults Muslims, who insults veterans, who insults women, who insults African Americans. The American people understand that our strength is in our diversity. They understand that when we come together as one people, black and white and Latino and Asian American and Native American, gay and straight, whatever we may be, we are stronger. And the American people understand that coming together always trumps dividing us up. And the American people also understand that what America is about and what makes us great is supporting each other. That when your family is in trouble, my family and our country are there for you. When my family is in trouble, your family and this country are there for us. And the American people understand that supporting each other always trumps selfishness. Most importantly, I think the American people understand what every major religion on earth has taught us for centuries. And that is that at the end of the day, love always trumps hatred. History has taught us one very profound lesson, and that is real change never takes place from the top on down. It always takes place from the bottom on up. Whether it is the history of workers standing up and fighting for their rights and forming unions, whether it is the civil rights movement where millions of people came together and said that we will end racism and bigotry in this country. Whether it is the women's movement, people forget that less than 100 years ago, women in America did not have the right to vote, did not have the right to get the education or the jobs they wanted. But women came together, and some of them went to jail. to jail. Some of them died in the struggle. But they and their male allies said that in America, women will not be second-class citizens. If we were here 10 years ago, no time at all, and somebody jumped up and said, you know, I think that in the United States of America, by the year 2015, gay marriage will be legal in every state in this country. Most people would not have believed that that would be possible. But what happened is over the decades, the gay community and their straight allies stood up, fought back, and said that in America, people should have the right to love whoever they want. That is the history of change. Change is about people by the millions looking around them and saying the status quo does not work. The status quo is wrong. We are going to change the status quo. And today, all over our country, coast to coast, people are looking and they're saying, you know what? This grotesque level of income and wealth inequality is wrong. It is wrong that the middle class for 40 years has been in decline. It is wrong that people have to work 2 or 3 jobs to survive. It is wrong that young people are leaving school $50,000 in debt. It is wrong that women are making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. It is wrong that we are the only major country on earth that does not guarantee paid family and medical leave, or that all of our people do not have health care as a right. And when people begin to look at those issues, they begin to challenge establishment thinking. And when people begin to look at these issues, they say, you know what? This is the United States of America. We can do better. What this campaign is about is telling you that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can transform this country in the way we need change all by himself. Can't be done by one person. Because the powers that be on Wall Street, in corporate America, in the corporate media, in wealthy campaign contributors, these folks are so powerful that no one president can do it alone. What we need and what this campaign is about is a political revolution. And what that revolution means is that millions of people today are beginning to stand up and fight back and demand a government which represents all of us, not just a handful of billionaires. Next week, there is going to be a very important primary here in the beautiful state of Kentucky. And what we have learned so far on the campaign is that if there are large voter turnouts, we win. Let us make certain that for the Kentucky Democratic primary, we have the largest voter turnout in history. Thank you all very much.
With an eye on the primary in 2 weeks,
Okay, welcome back, everybody. So, look, we've heard much of what Bernie said there before, but we know we still like hearing it. It's inspirational. It gives us hope, and none of the mainstream outlets will show it.
Look, I think that his speeches are extremely important, and I think that that's part of the reason why he hasn't given up yet. Does Bernie genuinely think he's going to win the nomination? I don't know. But what I do know is that the longer he stays in the race, the more time he has to spread important messages about what we can do to save our democratic process, right? Yeah. So I like that he's remained in the race. I know that a lot of Democrats disagree with that because they feel like, he's taking away from Hillary Clinton being able to attack Trump. She has to still continue competing with Bernie instead. Whatever. This is still a race, okay? And so I love that he's using the time that he has to have these very long but important speeches about our political system, various political issues. He's the only person who brings up climate change, and that's also extremely important. That's part of the reason why a lot of young people want to vote for him. Yeah. We're the people who are going to inherit this disastrous environment. So I love that he's raising awareness about these issues.
Yeah, there's a couple of core issues that he's on the right side of. That we talk about him constantly, like her position on the death penalty, her position on fracking.
Right.
Her position on the death penalty. It would be so easy to just have the right position because she believes it should be withheld for cases of terrorists. Mm-hmm. How many terrorists do we execute? Seriously, that's how you're going to allow it to continue so that someday we can execute one terrorist rather than locking him up for the rest of his life. No, take a stand, be a leader, be presidential. But anyway, side note.
Well, that just goes to, I think that is emblematic of Hillary Clinton, that one issue right there. So if you're really against the death penalty, that doesn't change. The reasons you're against it doesn't change when you change the person you're killing.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, I'm against it because of these reasons. Oh, but if it's another person of a different religion or nationality or whatever, then it's okay. I have a double standard for human beings.
Yeah.
I only like certain human beings in certain conditions. Because that's what that says. So it just reveals that even so she's going to take a principled stand on something, but she'll take a political stand on it and say it's okay to do it. So this is what, it's just, she says two things at once. I'm against the death penalty, I'm for the death penalty.
I remember when the gun debate came up after the Newtown shooting. Obama finally came forward and started, speaking aggressively about the need for gun control. And one thing that really stood out to me was there was a change in polling among Americans regarding whether or not they would be in favor of certain gun regulations. Obama waited until public opinion indicated that the majority of Americans wanted some sort of, common sense gun regulation. And so he responded to the polls, and that was when he got a little aggressive about doing something about gun violence in the country. And I feel like Hillary is another example of that, right? You need a leader, someone who not only leads by example, but someone who makes the tough decisions. And even if the majority of the country is in favor of the death penalty, you have to look at the statistics. You have to consider the numbers of people who have been killed by this country when in reality they were innocent. Yeah. And you need to take a stand. You need to educate the country about what the reality is. That's what a leader does. And that's what Bernie is doing right now. And every time I watch these speeches, even though I love the fact that he's speaking about these issues, as I've mentioned before in the show, it's political blue balls, right? I watch it every single time. I think to myself, why can't we finally elect a leader? And I know that there are still people that believe that there's a possibility that it's going to happen for Bernie. I hope it does.
Well, I'll just say this, and I forgot where I heard this, but let's remember Bobby Kennedy was assassinated in June. I forgot where I heard that, but let's remember that. I forgot where I heard that. I don't know where I heard it, but let's remember that. Plus, there's somebody could be indicted. Let's not forget that.
That's also true.
Let's also not forget that if Bernie cranks it up, I think all he has to do is win 65% of California. You have to double check those numbers, and then he'll win. So there's a lot of
it was 64% of the remaining delegates.
Okay,
yeah.
So something like that.
Something like that.
Let's catch fire. I say, don't freak out. I'm not kidding. That's a possibility. How many more stories can we hear about the sickness that is in our body politic right now? How many that just the money is just I mean, it seems like every day another story, and it's like jaw dropping. We just heard yesterday that all that money we thought that George Clooney was raising for down ticket Democrats, which nobody can really be against, it isn't going to them. It's actually not going to down.
There was a follow-up to that, actually. So it turns out that she was taking back all that money because she knows that money corrupts politicians, and she didn't want to do that to so many state parties.
Are you taking classes at the UCB?
She's just trying to save our political system, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very graphic.
Regular Howie Mandel over here.
Wait. I like Howie Mandel.
Deal? Or no deal?
No deal. Okay, well, why don't we turn to Jordan Sharon? I know that he's been waiting on Skype for a little bit. He is reporting from a Bernie watch party at Union Jack's Bar in Indianapolis, Indiana. He's been in Indiana for a little bit. Jordan, are you there? I'm hearing some Bernie talk, but I'm not seeing it. Oh! Can you hear me, John? I can. How's it going, Jordan? Alright. So, you're in a Trump rally right now?
Yeah, the Trump protest last night got me so frustrated I had to get liquored up here at a bar. I'm at a bar with a Bernie watch party, a bunch of Bernie volunteers. Most of them here canvassed for Bernie the last few days here in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Some of them went 700, 800 doors. And even though Bernie in the beginning of the evening was down a little bit, each one of them said, not happening, he's going to take this. And we have on video, I mean, every little percentage point that he went up, they were going nuts here. So I talked to a lot of them about the Bernie or bust debate, and many of them are Bernie or bust, and a lot of them don't actually think Donald Trump means 95% of what he's saying. They kind of come from the Jimmy Dore school of thought, and they think Hillary's worse.
Wow, look at that. My videos are making it look, it's nice to see that not only Jordan's videos are being making an impact. It's nice to see every once in a while Jimmy Dore sneaks through. Thanks for that report, Jordan. It makes me feel better.
And the effect
Jimmy, I've gotten them all to subscribe to your show as well.
Oh, thank you. And I'm also cross-promoting TYT Politics. Jordan, again, picked up today by Mediaite.
Just passed 50,000 subscribers at TYT Politics, so of course you should check that out.
He's doing great work.
Okay, so you said that a lot of the members there, look, just for the record, I disagree about Trump. I don't know what percentage he believes, but I believe that he believes more than 5% of what he's saying. But so you said a lot of the people there that are canvassing are currently, you'd identify them as Bernie or bust. Are they, like with many of the never Trump, are they Bernie or bust no matter what? Or Bernie or bust unless Hillary gives us X in certain policies or a position for Bernie or whatever?
Most of them that I've spoken to are Bernie or bust total, but there's a few of them who have said they kind of expect that Hillary is going to move back to the center as she's done in the past, as most presidential candidates do. And when that happens, they want to keep the movement, even if Bernie's out of the contest by that point, to put the pressure on her to follow through with progressive policy proposals she stood by and that she adopted in the contest. I asked one guy, I used Jenks terminology. I said, are you willing to take the risk that Donald Trump, won't be this extreme? He said straight up, yeah, Hillary's going to send us to war. Several people I spoke to here think Hillary is more of a hawk than Donald Trump, and a few of them said, I can't vote for someone who's for corporations instead of me. I heard that from one person. So I'd say, it's anecdotal, but if I had to take a poll, I'd say the majority of them are Bernie bust all the way. Even if that means going and writing in his name.
What percentage of the people that you've been speaking with today are not voting for Hillary simply because she's a woman?
I actually, 2 days ago, I was at a Bernie rally in South Bend, and a lot of like college students, young 20s, and most of them seemed actually more open that if he doesn't get it, they would at least listen to Hillary. Most of them, when I mentioned Donald Trump's name, they either laughed or got really pissed off. So it kind of varies which crowd you're going to.
Jordan, we just lost him. I think we just lost Jordan.
All right.
Well, that's actually timely because apparently Ted Cruz has announced he is dropping out of the race. We're going to have commentary, but first, here's Ted Cruz with his announcement.
He saw not the close horizons that are of interest to those who seek to build their own fortunes in the short term. But instead, he looked to the distant times that concern the men and women whose purpose it is to secure the blessings of liberty to their posterity. Ronald Reagan spoke of the next 100 years and of the generations of Americans who would come to know whether our nation had escaped the existential threat of nuclear war, who would know whether our party had succeeded in its fight against the erosion of constitutional freedoms that only grow and multiply under rule of the Democratic Party. Ronald Reagan spoke of the purpose that defined our party then and that must unite and drive our party now. The Republican Party of Ronald Reagan and of George Herbert Walker Bush ensured that thousands of nuclear missiles that the Soviet Union and the United States had targeted each other were never fired, and that Soviet communism was consigned to the ash heap of history. They fought hard so that our American freedoms were not lost to any foreign foe, nor sacrificed in pursuit of any domestic agenda of the Democratic Party. Yet the challenges we face today remain as great as ever. Americans are deeply frustrated and desperately want to change the path that we're on. We have economic stagnation at home, and our constitutional rights are under assault. Under the Obama-Clinton foreign policy, Russia has emerged as a resurgent threat. China looks with a covetous eye on the lands of our allies in the region. A nuclear North Korea and a near-nuclear Iran yearn to devastate our homeland. And radical Islamic terrorism unleashes an evil that threatens the world. This year, 2 weeks before our party gathers in Cleveland, all Americans will celebrate the 240th birthday of the United States of America. American parents and grandparents will watch the fireworks with their kids and will dream of the grandchildren and great-grandchildren to come and wonder how those future generations of Americans will remember what we do not only this summer, but in the coming decades. Will we rise to meet the challenges that face our nation on the international stage, or will we withdraw and cower timidly from the world? Will we secure freedom of thought, expression, and religion for future generations? Or will we succumb to the tyranny of a political correctness and the temptation of racial politics and balkanization here at home? Will we hold fast to our founding values of rewarding talent, hard work, and industry? Or will we continue on that path of creeping socialism that incentivizes apathy and dependency? Will we deliver control of health care to citizens and their doctors? Or will we continue down the Obamacare road to second-rate socialized medicine? Will we keep America safe from the threats of nuclear war and atomic terrorism? Or will we pass on to future generations a land devastated and destroyed by the enemies of civilization? This is the responsibility with which we have been charged by history. This is our challenge. This is the fight that falls to our generation. When we launched this campaign 13 months ago, we saw a movement grow. The pundits all said it was hopeless, but we saw over 300,000 volunteers all across this nation. over 1.5 million contributions, averaging about $60 each. Many of those volunteers, many of those contributions, you never forget. Just a few days ago, 2 young kids, ages 4 and 6, handed me 2 envelopes full of change. All of their earnings from their lemonade stand. They wanted the campaign to have it. That's what built this campaign. That's what fueled this movement. Thank you to each of you, incredible patriots who have fought so hard to save our nation. And I with you. I am so grateful to you, to my amazing wife, Heidi. To our precious girls, Caroline and Catherine. To my mom, the prayer warrior. To my dad, who has traveled this nation preaching the gospel. To Carly Fiorina, who has been an incredible, phenomenal running mate. What you have done, the movement that you have started, is extraordinary. I love each and every one of you. From the beginning, I've said that I would continue on as long as there was a viable path to victory. Tonight, I'm sorry to say, it appears that path has been foreclosed. Together, we left it all on the field in Indiana. We gave it everything we've got. But the voters chose another path. And so, with a heavy heart, but with boundless optimism for the long-term future of our nation, we are suspending our campaign. But hear me now, I am not suspending our fight for liberty. I am not suspending our fight to defend the Constitution, to defend the Judeo-Christian values that built America. Our movement will continue. And I give you my word that I will continue this fight with all of my strength and all of my ability. You are extraordinary, and we will continue to fight next week and next month and next year, and together we will continue as long as God grants us the strength to fight on. For one thing remains as true today as it was 40 years ago in Kansas City. In this fight for the long-term future of America, there is no substitute for victory. There is no substitute for the America that each and every one of us loves with all of our heart, that we believe in with all of our heart, and that together we will restore as a shining city on the hill for every generation to come. Thank you to each of you, and God bless you.
That was painful. So we sat through that, waiting for him to finally announce that he's suspending his campaign.
I wanted him to suspend his speech immediately.
It's just the most unbearable speech.
Well, I mean, look, it's so fake. I'll never suspend my commitment to liberty. Like, he can't speak like a real person.
I know.
He's like a bad actor, also a bad politician, and a bad presidential. And like, I love that he, of course, had to look. He has to compliment Carly Fiorina. She joined him.
She was a great running mate for less than a week.
Yeah. I've watched TV marathons that lasted longer than her time as his running mate. But I tweeted about this. Like, thanks to him, she got to be a loser twice in one primary.
But I know, it is pretty incredible. Not only that, though, think about the fact that Carly Fiorina attacked him while she was campaigning against him in the primaries, okay? And then was named the running mate and had to go on national television and take back her criticisms.
Yeah.
Basically say that she was wrong about Ted Cruz, and then a few days later, you're done.
I mean, look, I always want to give credit, even for somebody who doesn't deserve any, like Ted Cruz, but politicians love to do the thing where, like, in this case, you go into Indiana and you tell them, you know what, my hopes are riding on you. This is all to Indiana. They always just say that. But he was being honest in this case. Apparently he was really being honest. And since he lost, then look, he already couldn't win based on the delegates. All he could hope to do is hopefully keep Donald Trump below a majority, which until tonight was still possible. After tonight, it becomes effectively impossible. If Ted Cruz loses Indiana by 16, he's not winning California by 20. He's down more in California than he was in Indiana. And even then, they would be subverting the democratic system of the Republican Party to have Donald Trump not end up as the nominee. I mean, look, Donald Trump is an absolute disaster, but he's a disaster that's what the party wants. They want, and that's what they're now going to get. It's not impossible that they could stop him, even without the delegates. Like, they get the delegates to not vote for him at the convention, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen now. If you're betting on that, try to get your money back.
I want to state for the record that Donald Trump has always been my idea of a Republican stereotype, right? Like, the fact that he's now the Republican nominee only reinforces every stereotype that I've ever had or believed about the Republican Party. And now I just don't think they're stereotypes. I think that they're truths. I think they're facts. They hate minorities. They hate poor people. And just take a step back. Don't think about anything else in this election. Just think about what Donald Trump represents. He is the representative of the Republican Party right now. He is the person who will represent the Republican Party in the general election. Yeah. If you are a Republican and you're proud of that, man, you lack some self-awareness.
I mean, how could this not be a disaster for purple state senators, right?
I sure making a joke about Kasich, who on that last map had the one purple state. Totally.
The fact that this is our friend Bruce Bartlett wrote a blog about, he used to be in the George Herbert Walker administration, and of course he got in trouble because he came out against the craziness that the Republican Party has been going through over the last 10 to 15 years, since Fox News went on the air. So what is happening, so what he's saying is this is good, this has to happen. What he says is this has to happen, and the faster it happens, the better. And this is the guy to do it. This is the guy to absolutely wreck the party, and then we can rebuild. So
God knows what it'll be then.
But you know what? It's funny. I mean, wouldn't it be wild if we get a revitalized Republican Party that's less crazy, and we just get a worse Democratic Party because we keep sliding farther and farther? And let's not forget why this is happening. What has made Donald Trump possible, I think, has been when the Democrats got in bed with the corporations in Wall Street and the military-industrial complex, and they slid to the right. And then the Clintons, they had the DLC, then they had the sister soldier moment, they had the super predators, and they gutted welfare and all this stuff. So the Democratic Party had slid all the way to the right, so now the Republicans have to slide even farther right. So we've talked about this on the show before. So until the Democrats come back to the left, I don't think the Republicans will ever come back. But who knows? Maybe they'll implode and they will come back as a better party.
I think a lot of things went wrong on the Republican side that led to Trump being nominated. Mistake number one was not taking Trump seriously from the beginning. And, I mean, we're guilty of that. We didn't think that he had a chance, and I don't think the mainstream media thought he had a chance. But we quickly changed our opinion on that. The mainstream media, they took a little longer, and they gave him so much free advertising. I mean, the guy didn't have to spend much.
$2 billion.
Yeah, he did not have to spend much to get the type of name recognition that he already had, to be fair, but also the type of advertising, free advertising that mainstream media gave him. Then there was the issue of the establishment choosing Jeb Bush as their favorite, right? They put all their money and support behind Jeb Bush without realizing that Jeb Bush is a Bush. You know? But think about that for a second. He's not so bright, and he's certainly not good in public, which is amazing because he's a politician. You'd think he'd be okay, but he just was flailing in all of those debates, and he did terribly, so that as soon as Jeb Bush is out of the race, at that point, Trump's already leading. Then they put their support behind Marco Rubio, who's a boy, as Cenk likes to say. So there weren't a lot of great options for the establishment. And unfortunately, they just didn't put all their support behind the right candidate from the beginning.
I mean, look, once we got into the campaign, Jeb, as soon as we watch one debate, you're like, oh, no, he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And look, Rubio tried, and he's fake in the way that a lot of politicians are, but occasionally he would get fired up, and you could sort of understand why a young Republican would like that. And if you go back a year before the beginning of the election, I'm sure that we said things about either of those two potentially being the future face of the Republican Party, not because we think that they're good guys or good politicians even, but because demographically it might be in their favor to go for Rubio, and we assume that most people bow down to established names like Jeb Bush. We're even seeing that on the Democratic side to some extent. I disagree with the timing of what Jimmy was talking about in terms of who was following who with the sliding. I think that the reason the Republican Party moved so far is I think that they found during the 80s into the 90s that you could win elections by whipping people up into a xenophobic fervor and get them to focus on their emotional hatred for outsiders and all that. And that you keep doing that for a couple of decades and you're going to get some really crazy right-wingers. And then you combine that with Fox News, who's telling them every bad thing you believe about black people and gay people, all of it's true. Liberals are the devil. And it trained them to be ready for Donald Trump, who said, you know what, I'm going to double down. I'm going to go farther against PC culture and all of that. And so they were creating the base that Donald Trump would eventually pick up.
I think you're right. I think it's a combination of all.
It's a combination.
Yeah, and another thing I want to add is, the thing that appeals to a lot of voters right now is someone who doesn't act so presidential, right? And what I mean by that is, look, I don't think Bernie Sanders acts presidential. I don't think that he follows certain rules that have been laid forth by the establishment. And that's one of the many reasons why I think he's appealing to liberal voters. On the other hand, you have Trump, who has that same appeal, but he has a very different message, right? Yeah. He does speak off the cuff, right? You look at his speeches after the primaries, and it's chaos, but people tend to like it. The video of him entering, buildings from alternate exits because, protesters are protesting him. I think things like that actually speak to his voters and to the Republican base. It's insane that he did as well as he did in the primaries. But when you really take everything into context and you understand how disenfranchised Americans feel right now, how untrustworthy they find politicians, well, the two candidates that, aren't really following the establishment rules are, of course, going to get the support.
Although we could break down the differences, and those people are not the same, obviously.
Right,
they're different in a lot of ways.
No.
And look, I think some of the things he's doing in terms of not being like a regular politician, any politician should try to do that, and it'll probably help them a little bit. But some of the things that he did in terms of the conspiracy theories and all that, he was gifted, he was blessed by the fact that he has a crazy base to appeal to. Like people that are so much more insane than we could have ever imagined they would be. But what I want to shift to really fast, and we're going to take a break shortly, is what this means and why the Republican establishment was against him. Because it's easy to assume that they hate him and they hate everything about him, which isn't true. I think that they are, as Jimmy said, they're afraid of what effect he might have on down-ballot races. So especially in close Senate elections, in close House races. I mean, this could lead to if he's a candidate, this could lead to the Democrats getting the Senate. The Cook Report, who does all of the major polling and the predictions and projections for the House, they said that it's not impossible now that the Democrats could win the House as a result of him becoming the nominee, which is huge. And because of gerrymandering and all of that, and the effect of money in politics, the effect of name recognition, it's certainly not something that we were expecting. So they hate that. They hate that he can't be controlled as easily, that he doesn't need their money. But that does not mean that they hate what he stands for, or that they hate the positions, the policies that he would put into effect as president. Like, his tax plan is crazy. To me, not to the Republicans.
Right.
They love the idea of slashing corporate taxes to 1/3 of what they are now, and slashing the taxes of the top 1% to a fraction of what it is now.
As if corporate taxes are astronomical to begin with. I mean, in theory, they're okay, but then when you think about corporate tax loopholes and deductions...
The effective tax rate, yes.
The effective tax rate, exactly.
Yeah, and look, they're not really comfortable with the things that he's been saying about Muslims and about Mexicans. That doesn't mean that they don't believe it. They just don't want him to be so blunt about it, so explicit about it. But if he were to actually try to build a wall, to try to kick them all out of the country, do they hate that? No, I don't think they hate that at all. They just don't want him to say it before an election.
Right.
So if he gets in, okay, well then they've lost those Senate races if they're going to. But once he's the president, they agree on those crazy positions. The damage has been done at that point, and they can get the crazy right-winger that they at least believe that he is, and I believe that he is in most cases.
So, but here's also, but you have to factor in what you just said was that he might lose the House for them. That's how. I mean, that's unbelievable in this kind of crazy gerrymandering. That's how what a variety is to this party right now.
It's a regular people.
What a destructive force he is electorally down ballot for them. So let's not also forget that 30% of the exit poll Democratic voters today, Bernie voters, said they would not vote for Hillary Clinton. So if Trump beats her, he will be a president with a much weakened position in the House and the Senate. Much weak. We might even have a Democratic House and Senate before the midterms. That's how weakened Trump will be when he gets there. So, I don't know. You tell me. I think there's an argument to be made that that's a better situation than a Republican House and Senate with Hillary Clinton that's going to go even further Republican in the midterm.
Well, but in either case, look, if he's going to damage them in the Senate and the House, then he's going to do that regardless of whether he ends up winning the presidency or not. Like, if he hurts them in those races, then if Clinton becomes president, he still hurt them in those races.
Right.
Which means that theoretically, Clinton could end up with a Democratic House and Senate.
And theoretically...
So you've said before that you think that if Hillary's the president, it'll hurt us in the midterms. I agree with you there. I think you do better in the midterms under Trump. I mean, that's just the way it always is.
Yeah,
the party that wins the presidency, exactly. Now, we can have a long debate, and we will for the next 6 months, about whether that's worth having Trump as the president, which I think is interesting. But yeah, like, this is not a great day for the Republican Party, and it's certainly not the beginning of great days for the Republican Party. Young people are going to pay attention to this race. Him being in it means more are going to pay attention than would normally because he draws so much attention. He's such a big star, and he is going to embarrass the shit out of young conservatives. He's going to make them embarrassed to be conservative.
And this is a big night for Bernie Sanders, so don't forget, he's going to win big here in Indiana. And what if...
He's up by 6.2?
What if the New York closed primary was the last state that Hillary won? Maybe we whisper of a dream.
The last time you whispered of a dream, disastrous things happened. Just keep the whispers
I stopped wearing the ties to ruin that. Maybe we should stop whispering, but you know what? It feels good to occasionally
whisper a dream.
All right. Let's take a break.
We should probably do that, yeah. Okay, and soon we're going to have Jank as well, right?
Yes. When we come back, we should have Jank.
Alright, Jordan, tell us where we are, where we've been, and where we're going.
Jordan Shack reporting for the Young Turks.
The Young Turks online.
You're the third reporter that have come.
Tell me none of them getting a haircut while talking to you.
Listen,
I'm the first.
All right, you're beautiful.
Is Hillary being sincere when she says $12 is enough for the minimum wage?
Anybody who tells you $12 is enough for the minimum wage is not only not being sincere, they don't give a damn about you.
No bank is too big to fail, and no executive too powerful to jail.
She is pretty dead set on protecting big banks.
We're tired of money in politics, and we're tired of the corruption.
You think it would really be better for liberals if all the money from the banks went to Republicans as opposed to just 80%?
When do we actually decide to make a change as a people?
Bernie Sanders already said, oh, he wants a revolution, he wants a revolution. Well, I don't really want a revolution, I want a precedent.
Have you been a Ted Cruz fan all this time?
No, I've been a Liberty fan all this time.
Go Trump! It was a raucous event, if you've ever seen one.
I don't want to be recorded.
He's not going to tell us anything, so.
He reminds me of like your drunk uncle at a wedding who gets up and starts talking and just loves the crowd.
They're trying to ethnically cleanse white people?
Well, sure they are. Weren't you white guy?
In Dixieland, I'll take my stand.
Indiana primary. We believe Cenk is ready to come on. He's been waiting on Skype, reporting from his hotel room in New York. Let's find out what Cenk thinks about both Ted Cruz dropping out and Bernie Sanders looking like he's almost certainly going to win Indiana at this point.
Okay. You guys can hear me fine?
We can.
Okay. You ready for this?
Nice hair.
Yes.
Down goes Cruz! Down goes Cruz! Ladies and gentlemen, we got him! Actually, we most certainly did not get him. Donald Trump got him. So, on a night where Donald Trump has become the Republican nominee, which is one of the saddest things that's ever happened in American politics, there is a wonderful silver lining, which is that Lucifer has been defeated. So, yes, Donald Trump is a maniac. Yes, he is a danger to the Republic. But Cruz, we have said from day one, was a little worse. So we should take this moment out to celebrate a little bit that the satanic Ted Cruz has been defeated and is now out of the race. And of course, I'm going to take this moment to brag in a way that is totally unnecessarily and fairly unjustified. I've been saying for a couple of days out here in the wilderness, man, I wanted to be in the studio for this moment. Anyway, I've been saying Trump's locked it up. It's over. It's over. Especially earlier today on Twitter, on Facebook Live, I was like, he's got it. It's done. It's a weird and silly thing to brag about because I can read polls. The polls clearly indicated that he was going to win Indiana. He's going to win it comfortably. And if he wins Indiana, as we've been saying all along, there is no path to stop him. And so even Ted Cruz realized that. And if that guy thought there was even a 0.1% chance he could win, he would hang on to the end. He had no chance. And Trump finished him tonight.
So we were just talking about some of the consequences of this, what the general election might look like, if it looks like it's going to be Hillary. So then we've been talking about the electability of the different candidates. Is this then a good thing for this election, for the future of the Democrats versus the Republicans, if he is the poster child of the Republican Party?
Okay, well, listen, if he's the president, God help us all, he will break every record there is for incompetence. And he will make George W. Bush look like Bill Gates. You'll think like, wow, Bush, he knew presidenting. Okay, so Trump is going to be, if he wins, and that's a giant if, and I'll tell you my odds right now that he's the official nominee. He's not the official nominee, but he is. Let's keep it real. We're calling it. Young Turks, now that I'm on the line, Young Turks is officially calling it. Donald Trump is the Republican nominee. So if he wins, it will be a debacle like the United States has never seen before. He's good at crowd surfing. He's good at marketing. That is his only talent. He is a completely and record-breakingly bad manager. And so he's bankrupted 4 companies. He can't even figure out how to get out the vote. He won despite all that because he just got so much free media and he had such name recognition. And he was willing to be shameless. He out-shameless Ted Cruz, which previously seemed unimaginable, but he did it. But that doesn't mean that he would be competent. If he's a competent candidate, which he apparently is, obviously, he proved that by meeting 16 other people in the race, does not mean he will be a competent president. And if he's the president, I mean, that's where Jimmy's got an interesting point. Yes, I think we're playing dice with the country. I don't want to do that. I don't want to risk that under any circumstances. But likely, if he's president in 2020, the Democratic victory will be so stunning. And I'm not talking about Democratic Party. Let's keep it real. Let's call it what it actually is, the progressive victory. Yeah, because in 2020, if Trump's the president and Hillary lost to him, there's no way that these voters go, let's try another establishment pick. They're going to go progressive. They're going to go super progressive. And that candidate will break Donald Trump's back. They will not win all the blue states and all the purple states. They will win all the states. They won't stop at all the states. They'll win like 52 states, even though there's only 50. That's how bad they'll beat Donald Trump in 2020. You don't think that they...
So I have a quick question. Have we already determined that Cruz is choosing Chris Christie as his running mate?
Maybe Trump.
I'm sorry, Trump. Sorry about that. Yeah,
no,
we already
no.
determined. No, so that's
Trump
a little bit of a wild card because we don't know who he's going to choose as the running mate, right?
Wrong. I do know.
Who's it going to be?
Okay, so I thought a lot about this the other day, and you're absolutely right, Anna. Chris Christie is one of the leading candidates, and once he stood out there like an idiot behind him, like, with that look, he was like, okay, I'm willing to be your henchman, and I'll debase myself in any way that you want me to. And it looked like it was going to be Chris Christie, and he came out early, and he's one of the bigger figures. And then I thought of all these different possibilities, and I had a number of candidates that are all through in my mind, and then I settled on Ben Carson. What? Okay, I'll tell you why. He cannot have an establishment pick underneath him, because if he does, the Republicans could join the Democrats in impeaching him if he, as he will likely do, screw something up royally and break like 7 different laws. And if they have an establishment Republican behind him, the Republicans go, yeah, sure, let's get rid of him and put, our guy in. So he can't risk that. Number 2, Trump, but much, much more importantly, okay, I don't know if he's smart enough to figure out the whole impeachment thing. Much more importantly, Trump is a megalomaniac. He will not tolerate anyone that would be remotely challenging him in terms of ideas, stature. So Chris Christie is a loudmouth governor of New Jersey. Has had some success. Could he be Secretary of Defense or Attorney General? Oh yeah. All those things are possible, right? But Ben Carson is a minority, so he will get to say in his mind, like not in reality, but in his mind, he'll be like, what? How can I be racist? How can a black guy is my VP, right? And Ben Carson will in no way challenge Donald Trump in anything. Donald Trump largely wants his VP to fill a slot, right? So he fills the minority slot, now go to sleep. So, and Ben Carson is an outsider, and he wants to do that outsider image.
So, Jake,
I think he's going to pick Carson.
Jake, let me just break in and say that makes sense because, Trump is still not winning with what the Republicans consider their conservative base. That Republican primary voters are against Trump, who consider themselves very conservative, 54 to 41. Plus, he's not winning with people who go to church once a week. He's losing 63 to 28 with those people. So Ben Carson helps both those things.
That's right.
I think that he gets the religious people plus the people who consider themselves super conservative.
Okay, so the reason why I went into this direction, and now that you guys are explaining all this, it does make sense if he chooses Ben Carson. The reason why I even brought up his VP pick is because I think that could have a huge impact over whether or not he'd get reelected, regardless of how disastrous he is. I mean, think about Bush. Bush was a disaster. Bush was an epic disaster. But he had Dick Cheney behind the scenes kind of, dictating his every move and making decisions for him. And I think that type of strategy led to him getting reelected. So that's the reason why I brought it up. I mean, if Trump has a strong running mate that could manipulate voters, that could, come up with a good strategy to fearmonger enough to get people to vote for him again, well then, this whole notion of having him as our president to help Democrats in the long run wouldn't really work.
Or Ben Carson adding some likability.
Can we just note for the record that we are now having a conversation about whether Donald Trump gets reelected in 2020? Okay.
I'm not there yet, just for the record. Really fast, I have some information on this. Scotty Nell Hughes, the main surrogate, at least on the mainstream media, apparently just mentioned Gingrich, Rubio, and Bob Corker as potential VP choices.
She's an idiot.
That being said, yes, that's Scotty Nell Hughes, so who knows?
She's one of the dumbest
Can you
people I've ever met
imagine
in my life.
Rubio? It might as well be if Jeb becomes the VP pick.
No, it will definitely not be Rubio. Like, Newt Gingrich would be a Dick Cheney-like pick, and he would do it to assuage people and calm them down and to get some, some credibility and also to get some advice because he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, right? But so he will consider people like Gingrich. I think that's a real possibility. He won't go for Corker. Corker's just a regular Republican senator, and like I said, the establishment would want Corker over Trump. He'll get a sense of that. He'll get jealous. Remember, I told you guys this story that other people don't know, that I had a friend who worked on one of his bankruptcies. He was on the other side. He was representing the people that were trying to get money from Trump. And they had worked out a really good deal where Trump was actually going to get more money than he would otherwise. They were going to be able to keep everybody employed at one of the casinos. And Trump turned it down because it wasn't his idea. Yeah. Okay, his ego will not allow anyone like Corker. Gingrich is a really interesting wild card. Like I said, for the Cheney-like role, maybe if he thinks it's going to help him. But in the end, I think that his ego can't handle it. He'll still go for a Carson-like figure.
Cenk, what about someone like a Kasich who has the sort of respectability? He's governed.
No way.
But he's not a strong personality. Why?
No, again, I just think that he'll feel at the end like this guy's too competent, has too many of his own ideas. I can't tolerate that. Look, obviously I could be wrong, but hadn't happened yet.
Okay. Really fast, let's switch things up. So we've talked about, with Ted Cruz dropping out, it looking like it's going to be Donald Trump. We're worried about the future of the country, the future of the world. What do you think about the future of Glenn Beck? Are you worried for him now? He put a lot into Ted Cruz.
It's time to ride that gyrocopter again. Not the gyrocopter, the gyro machine or whatever, the thing where he spins around and around and gets mentally healthy.
Oh, the gyroscope, yeah.
The gyroscope.
No, I really think somebody should check his apartment right now. Because he's got that apocalyptic thing, and he really thought that Ted Cruz was like Christ reborn.
Okay, well, look, I mean, this is a question for Glenn, and I'd like to have somebody ask him today. I doubt he'll take it from us. Okay, will you finally admit that you're not talking to God? That if God exists, he's messing with you? Because clearly, the guy you keep thinking that God picked keeps on losing.
Yeah.
So either God doesn't know what he's doing, or maybe you're talking to someone else. Like maybe it's Satan? That's Satan? Or it could be that you're mentally ill.
I just saw a retweet of Glenn Beck's story. It was after Scalia died. He said God allowed Scalia to die to force everyone to realize how important it was that they vote for Ted Cruz. So I feel bad for Scalia that he had to be sacrificed for absolutely nothing.
I mean, poor guy. I feel right now like, oh, damn it. Like, I killed, hey, Anthony, sorry about that, big guy. I really thought Cruz was going to pull it out. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah, what if he needs to, like, remind everyone of the importance of voting for a Republican over a Democrat? Kennedy better watch out.
In their vision, in the conservative vision of God, God is incredibly weak. I mean, he loses all the time. Which, to be fair, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, there is one verse where God, our God, loses to another God. So maybe that's what happened in this case.
Yeah. So it looks like right now I'm looking at Sanders-Clinton. We've got 68%, and it looks like he's got.
CNN is calling.
Oh, they already called it. I was going to say 6.5 points. So we just got that live. It's being called.
Yes.
Not by reputable news sources yet, but CNN has called it. So that's something.
I'm calling it. Youngsters are calling it. Bernie Sanders, the winner in Indiana. Down goes Hillary, down, kind of, in Indiana for the moment being.
So did you see? Have you seen the polls that have Hillary only 2 points ahead of Donald Trump? Jake, have you seen those polls?
Yes, I saw a Rasmussen poll where they were tied.
So now, what do you think this means for Bernie going? I heard Trump's going to talk. I don't need to hear him. But what do you think this means? Does this mean anything for Bernie going forward that he wins in Indiana? And that, I mean, there is still a path for victory. And, let's remember, I forget who said this, but Bobby Kennedy, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, what if Pennsylvania was the last state she won?
Whisper.
By the way, if Pennsylvania's the last state she won, she might still win. So let's just keep it real on that front. But having said that, look, yes, Indiana win is very good, very necessary for Bernie Sanders, and God bless, we'll take it. He is still alive, and we should note for the record, look, of course it's improbable, but there are a couple of things that could happen. There are things that, could make a dramatic difference. He could win California 65 to 35. I've heard people in the campaign talk about that. It's very improbable, but it's a remote possibility. It still exists, right? Yeah. And of course, the indictment could happen. I know the Hillary people freak out as if I am investigating her, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm not the one investigating. 12 FBI agents are investigating. So, like, you closing your eyes to it doesn't make it not real.
Yes. And, Jake, let me ask you one more question. What happens if by the convention time, Hillary's, losing to Trump by 6 percentage points? What do the superdelegates do then? Because by what I've been told is that's what the superdelegates are there for. They're there to help make the best choice for November. What if she's losing by the time the convention comes? What do you think of that?
Okay, so let me make a couple of things clear. First of all, it is very, very likely that when they go into the convention, that neither Bernie Sanders nor Hillary Clinton will have enough delegates to win outright, enough pledge delegates, okay? So yes, the superdelegates in some way will decide who the nominee is. Now, we've been saying all along, and we've got to be honest and principled about this, Jimmy, which is that the superdelegates should not supersede the will of the voters, okay? So if she has more pledge delegates, which seems very likely now, but does not have enough for a majority, which is also very, very likely. It's not very likely. With Indiana now going for Bernie Sanders, she will not have enough. I'm calling that. It's over. She will not have a majority of the delegates going into the convention on pledge delegates alone. So, on the other hand, this is why I mentioned the indictment. Yes, it's a small possibility within the next 6 weeks, but it is real. By the way, let me just note for the record, I know Hillary Clinton supporters' heads explode when I say this, but if there was a dozen FBI agents investigating any other U.S. citizen, they would get indicted. Their chance of getting indicted would be 99.9%. Okay? So, and you know that. Anybody knows that. You got 12 FBI agents looking into you, you're getting arrested, dude. You're getting indicted. Okay, so now I know she's powerful, and maybe the powerful are above the law. So that's entirely possible. Okay, but the reason I say all that is because that is exactly what the superdelegates were for.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have someone, yes, who got more pledged delegates, but just got arrested, okay, so that's when the superdelegates would go, hey, for the good of the party, she just got arrested, she's losing by 6 or 8 to Donald Trump, and the other guy is winning by 12 against Donald Trump or 15. I mean, if there's any reason for the superdelegates at all, it would be that moment. If they don't use the superdelegates in a moment like that, then they should never, ever, ever have them.
Well, they shouldn't have them even if they don't use them in a moment like that. I think they should eliminate them right now. And that is ostensibly
That's a fair point by John.
That's ostensibly why they were created. But when we're we have to think about this not in the abstract, but the actual Democratic leadership we have right now, immortalized right now, or the figurehead being Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Do you think she will care about the carefully crafted logic that you just laid out there?
Yeah. A, no. B, I'm about to make Jimmy's head explode. I was just in D.C. That's part of the reason I'm out of town. I was there for the White House Correspondents' Dinner weekend, right? First of all, I also talked to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She says she'll come on the Young Turks, so that should be interesting. But the thing that'll make your head explode is it has nothing to do with her. The buzz inside D.C. was, if she gets indicted, they don't give it to Bernie anyway. All of her delegates and the superdelegates give it to Biden.
Hey, guess what? Guess what? Again, another bad. So again, the Democratic Party, who was trying to present us with the worst and most flawed candidate, definitely the most hated candidate in the history of the Democratic Party. They're offering that, and then their second thing is to then screw over the most popular politician of our generation right now. No, that's fact. If that does, for sure, Trump wins the general election. For sure.
So do you?
For sure, right? What do you think about that?
If they did that, they would hand the election on a silver platter to Donald Trump, and they would split the Democratic Party irreversibly.
Yes.
Like the Sanders people would never ever come back, right? And so that is such an atrocious idea. But what is amazing is that most of Washington thinks that's the most reasonable thing to do. They don't even think that that's controversial.
That's the establishment bubble, though. They're so disconnected from the American people and the voters, especially young voters. Like, it's amazing how unaware they are of how disastrous that would be. But what you just laid out right now, Cenk, is a perfect example of why so many people think the system's rigged.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter who you vote for. In the end, the establishment's going to get what the establishment wants.
Yeah. So again, let me be clear. That was not Debbie Wasserman Schultz. That was not anyone in the official party. And there were a minority of people who were saying, no, that's unreasonable. But the majority of people that I talked to, and yes, it's anecdotal, but the majority of people I talked to were saying, if she gets indicted before the convention, they're going to go to Biden. Okay? So, oh my God. I mean, the degree to which that convention would be a mess would be record-breaking. If they thought the Republican convention was going to be bad, if it was contested, wait till you get a load of the Democratic one. But again, these are all remote possibilities. Let's just keep it real on that. Our job is to be, honest with the audience. So, likely, instead, she'll get indicted in the general election. Joy.
I'm encouraging people not to freak out. Many things could happen. We've already won many victories. We're going to win more victories. Bernie's not going away, and I'm actually excited. I think that there still is a path. This is going to be an interesting convention, especially since, and I'll predict right now that Hillary's numbers will be even or lower than Donald Trump's poll numbers by the time the convention comes.
Okay, I want to add one thing that's very important. Let's look at the media bias one more time, okay? So the media told us that race to pay attention to was the Republican one. For how many months now? The last 1 or 2 months, they said, no, the Sanders-Clinton one is over. That one's not close. The really close one is the Republican one between Trump and Cruz, right? Well, that was never true. As we pointed out on the Young Turks a long time ago, even before New York and Pennsylvania voting, that Trump's lead over Cruz was twice as big proportionally as Hillary Clinton's lead over Bernie Sanders. Twice as big. And tonight in Indiana, Cruz already dropped out, seeing that it is impossible for him to win. Okay? So when the media was telling you how close it is in the Republican race, that's because they wanted it to be close, because the establishment is not for Donald Trump. So no matter what the reality was, no, we're going to say it's close, we're going to say it's close, right? Now, on the Democratic side, we still have a race. But they told you how many months ago that it was over? Well, first of all, they told you it was over before it even began. And then when he won a couple of races, they were like, that's inconvenient. Okay, we'll say it's a little bit of a race now. But certainly for the last month, there's been a chorus of, it's over, it's over, it's over. But yet, Bernie Sanders, still hanging in there, still not over, still has a path to victory. That race has always been closer, and the media has always been lying to you.
That's a great point. Yes, the media. This is I say it's again. Even in the worst case scenario of a Trump presidency, he so damages the down tickets.
So we admit that's the worst case scenario.
I think I'm saying for your people, my worst case scenario is Hillary as president.
Okay, just make it
your
sure.
worst case scenario, everybody else is Donald Trump. I say we're actually in better shape with Donald Trump because we'll see. I think we're getting premature. I think Bernie still has a chance.
Okay, I'm going to say one last thing here. If it is Hillary Clinton that goes up against Donald Trump, and now we know it is definitely going to be Donald Trump on the Republican side, it is going to be a record-breaking negative campaign.
Oh my God!
The negativity will be tremendous. We will be losing with this race. We will be losing. We won't be winning anymore. Okay, they'll make America negative again. By the way, Trump's in my head. Like I did a couple of Facebook lives about this. Like now, whenever my room's a mess, I go, yeah, I'm not winning with this room anymore. This room's a mess. Okay, I need to make this room great again. Okay, I'll tell you, in all seriousness though, Hillary versus Trump, they're going to go so brutally negative because Trump, that's who he is. There's no question about that, right? He's going to attack her in every possible way. And by the way, I'm telling you, he's going to A/B test this campaign. So if you don't know what this means, it's trial and error, right? So he's going to try one tactic to attack her, see if it works, see if it resonates. Then if it doesn't, he'll move on to the next. Until he finds 2 or 3 things that resonate. And then once he finds them, he will pound away, right? So he will go as negative as humanly possible. And the Clinton campaigns, they're no wilting flowers. I mean, they went negative against poor, putting soft Bernie Sanders.
No kidding.
Okay.
Let alone Obama.
Yeah, let alone Obama. They showed Obama with a turban on. That was them. Yeah. Okay? So they're not going to their credit, they will punch back. This thing's going to get bloody.
What you're saying right now, Van Jones has said tonight, someone has just tweeted at me that Van Jones, a quote from him tonight, is that Trump will eat Hillary for breakfast.
Wow. Here's what's going to happen during the general election if Hillary is, in fact, the nominee. There will be no discussion about policy. There will be no discussion about anything that's relevant to any of us. The majority of the conversation will be about sexism. Okay, and we were talking about this earlier. Trump is going to attack her in the most brutal ways imaginable. Hillary is going to fire back with accusations of sexism, and that's it. We're going to discuss sexism for the rest of this election cycle, and then we'll see who gets elected in the end.
Well, I believe it's going to be, since it's Donald Trump, 9 times out of 10, she will be right. It will be the most brutal sexism you've ever seen. The 1 time out of 10 where it's not sexism, it'll probably be racism or something like that. It'll still be claimed to be sexism, and there will be 0 discussion of the policies of either of them.
That's right.
So, and that means that we don't even get to watch Hillary shift her positions back towards the center. We might never know. She's not going to have to talk about it.
Well, I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, I'm. You know what? I lied. I'm going to say one more thing. Everybody drink. Okay. So, if Hillary Clinton is the nominee, her VP pick is so obvious, but she might not make it.
You talking about Warren?
So, it's obviously Elizabeth Warren, right? So if she picks Elizabeth Warren, that is her best effort at unifying the party and bringing progressives on board. And secondly, it will drive Donald Trump into attacking them based on their gender endlessly. He won't be able to resist. He can't help himself. And he will lose just far too many women voters to ever win, right? And there's so many other reasons why Elizabeth Warren is the correct pick. But again, this is all anecdotal, but I was just in Washington, and yes, a lot of people think she will pick Elizabeth Warren. But again, there is a substantial number of people in the establishment who think, no, she doesn't need Warren, she won't pick Warren, she will view that as too much of a concession, and she has to talk to the vice president all the time. She's not going to want to talk to a real progressive like Elizabeth Warren, because she feels like, I'm progressive enough. What do I need Elizabeth Warren for? I'm the real progressive.
Yeah.
Because she genuinely believes that. So we'll see, because if she doesn't pick Elizabeth Warren, it is an act of hubris that endangers the Republic. Okay?
Are you thinking maybe like Cory Booker?
It could be Cory Booker. It could be Julian Castro. They've been thinking Julian Castro all along, but things change. So you never know. But the safer pick is someone like that, a Latino or an African American who is an establishment figure, takes the same corporate donors. Like Cory Booker is, oh my God, he's Obama 2.0. Takes even more Wall Street money than Barack Obama. Change on the outside, continuity on the inside. It's a perfect Hillary Clinton pick. But it is not a good pick if you want to win this race.
Yeah.
If you don't want to take any chances, you take Elizabeth Warren and you will win. But if she's as arrogant as she has been in the past, maybe she doesn't go in that direction, and then Trump's got an open.
Jake, I just want to say I hope to someday make the big bucks on something like MSNBC. So I'm going to say what they would say. I think she should do a unity ticket with John Kasich. Bring in all those modern Republicans.
That's what Chris. They'll say it.
No, he already said it. Chris Matthews has said that already.
That's his idea. Chris Matthews' big idea is that it would be really smart. It would be the smart thing.
Here's the thing. That would be a disaster. Strategically, it probably would bring in some Republicans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it would be most of all the best thing for Chris Matthews, because then he'd get to kiss Democratic and Republican ass at the same time. Yeah.
Well, as my friend Kia, who's a Bernie guy up in Stanford University and a fan of the Young Turks, I just wanted to give him a shout out.
Okay, now that we're on the irrelevant stuff, I will end on irrelevant stuff. Drink again. So, isn't technology great? So, first of all, some of you are annoyed at how close my face is to the camera, that's because I'm holding my phone. Okay, so A, get off my ass. B, how cool is it that I get to come on the show with you guys when I'm in a hotel room in New York? By the way, there's no campaign headquarters, there's no reporting on the street. I just came down from a YouTube party where there was heavy drinking. I, of course, did not partake because I'm a professional journalist who was going to come on the show and make important and serious political commentary. But I don't know, I just find it neat. Don't you guys think?
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, you don't need a complicated setup. Really fast, just because I want you to go to sleep angry. So I really like Vox, even though they're infuriating in some ways. So they have their winners and losers. And so you want to guess who on the Democratic side the winner and loser are?
Oh, come on. For God's sake.
I'm going to... Winner, yes.
Hillary Clinton. Of course. Oh, but come on, they got to both be winners. I mean, he won this thing. No, loser, Bernie Sanders.
That is unbelievable.
That's incredible.
How about this? How about neither strong winner or loser, Bernie Sanders?
So, I think that they might still think that the Republican race is closer than the Democratic race.
Exactly.
So yeah, they're unbelievable, man. But I mean, that goes to show you. I know why they wrote the headline. He didn't win on enough pledged delegates to make enough of a difference. Blah 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 blah. I know there's 1,000 excuses, right? But the bottom line is, there was no winning for Bernie Sanders with the media, and he should have recognized that from day one. He waited way too long to punch back. Honestly, he just started punching back against the corporate media on the Young Turks. You know, when I asked him about it, and he finally said they are part of the system. They're part of what's broken, right? He should have done that from day one, because they've always despised him. They never thought he had a chance. They never liked him. And so, yeah, of course. So in states that he won, they dismissed it. It's near Vermont. It's white. It's weird. It's a caucus. And they even called Hawaii white. It is the most diverse state in the nation. Now, they've just turned around on states he wins. They just say, no, you lost. Hillary won anyway. There's no end to their bias.
Yeah. So I think that the mainstream media is going to come out harder against Bernie now that Ted Cruz dropped out, and it's all going to be about why are you hurting Hillary against Trump? Why are you hurting? It's going to be. I mean, they've been doing that now anyway. It's going to get much worse going forward, and I predict that Trump is such a maniac narcissist. This is going to be his ultimate move. It's picked for vice president. He picks himself.
No, but you know what? Actually, I forget who it was. Ben or someone suggested that he might pick one of his kids. So it would be a Trump ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? Trump squared. Trump Tower.
Oh, God. Maybe it'll be his daughter who wasn't registered to vote for him.
No, he never did that.
You think he wouldn't pick one of his kids?
What's that?
You think he wouldn't pick one of his kids?
I think
the guy's an egomaniac, and the only reason he entered the race in the first place was to do more marketing for the Trump name. And to him, Trump will sound wonderful.
Okay, well, we're probably going to have to call it for the night. Thank you for joining us, Cenk. We're looking forward to having you back in the studio sometime in August or September. It'd be awesome.
By the way, I will be back Friday for the Power Panel. And for those of you who are missing me, God bless your hearts. So I am all over Facebook, okay? So Facebook.com/The Young Turks. That's where I do the serious political commentary. For my goofy videos, go to Facebook.com/Cenk Uygur Official, okay? So on there, I'm going to start doing a new series on my Uber drivers, including two-wife Omar and the steamer. Okay? And for my Game of Thrones reviews, go to Facebook.com/WhatTheFlick.
Awesome. Okay, everybody, head to those. And tomorrow, of course, we're going to do the Young Turks. We're going to have 2 awesome hours, and that means we're going to have a lot of follow-up to what happened tonight. We're going to have the media response, other politicians. I'm sure Trump is going to have said something offensive during his victory speech. We didn't cover it because we did not want to vomit live on camera tonight. But it was a pretty eventful night. We lost Ted Cruz. We barely knew him. We don't want to know him anymore. He can just go off into whatever dark night people made a wax live in, the fear of flames and all that. And thank you for joining us, of course. Every time we do these town halls, these debates, primaries and everything, it's awesome to have you guys watching and following along on social media.
Okay. No, I'm not letting you end it.
Okay.
I got 2 more last points. Drink.
Oh my God!
Jesus.
Go away!
Okay. They're really quick. One, I'd like to salute the shortest vice presidential nominee in American history, Carly Fiorina. So, what did that last? A week?
Maybe.
God, she is such a loser. She lost 42% of the stock value of Hewlett Packard when she was a CEO. She got killed by Barbara Boxer. She got killed by Donald Trump. And tonight, so shortest run for a VP pick in American history. Nice job, Carly. Okay, now, super last point. What if Bernie Sanders was like Jon Snow? Okay,
we're going to try to find a really hot redhead.
Hashtag what if Jon Snow?
Hashtag what if Jon Snow? Okay, we're going to look for Ginger, and we'll see if we can get him pumped up in advance of California. Okay, if Cenk allows, we're going to cut it at this point.
No, all right,
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. That's it. See you tomorrow.